Get the meeting started. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. As soon as you're done with that, I'll take it from you. Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh. Says most likely.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. All right, we'll start with public comment. Bruce Horwath.
Good evening, Bruce Horwath, representing the applicants of 7 property owners along Lily Pond. And this is for a Phragmites control application. And at this point, Rick Whalen has put together a resolution. I don't know if you had a chance to review that, which incorporates the project had been discussed and I think basically sort of approved in concept, but there was an issue raised about whether or not the owners would be willing to add language that would restrict any activities within the conservation zone that's on the west side of the pond. And so Rick added that language, which includes basically a no disturbance zone, which would allow cutting, would allow cutting, but would not allow fertilization or irrigation to take place there.
Let me I'll read the language. This would be the main condition on that Phragmites project, Lily Pond Lane. I added and you have it in front of me now. So condition 5 is, one of the conditions is submission to and approval by council to the trustees of a declaration signed and notarized by the owners of record of 81, 85, 89, 103, and 127 Appoquog Road, which declaration shall forbid any irrigation or fertilization of the land burdened by an East Hampton Village conservation easement on the west side of Lily Pond, as shown on a certain subdivision map entitled Map of the Little Plain, filed with the Suffolk County Clerk on July 13th, 2010 as map number 11774. Said declaration shall be approved by council to the trustees and recorded in the office of the Suffolk County Clerk, with proof of said recordation provided to the trustees prior to the commencement of the activity permitted herein.
So, Rick, excuse me, is that going to be then a part of the actual easement or a adjunct document?
No, the easement is a recorded easement that went to the village as the subdivision. This will be a separate recorded document, but it'll be recorded. It'll be a recorded declaration. Anyone looking at a property history or doing a title search will pull up that declaration against those 5 lots. Remember, there are 7 lot owners around the pond, but the 2 on the Lily Pond Lane side, they're not, the conservation easement has nothing to do with them. It all has to do with the other side of the pond.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions on this? Your clients are on board with this?
Yes.
Yeah?
I mean, he's hearing that language for the first time, so I assume that's okay.
Well, this is something that Trevor Darrow, the attorney for the applicants had.
You'd agree to it,
to
but
prior
I
to
mean, the
this.
language itself you haven't heard before. So.
Jim?
That's what we asked for.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So anyone want to make a motion to grant the permit?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Let me just, before you vote, one thing here. I don't know what your normal, I think in the past you've been doing 1-year permits. I did talk to Bruce, and you can explain this, I guess, Bruce, but this is expected to be about a 4-year project. So right now, I've made the permit good for 2 years. I mean, you could make it 4 years, but I didn't want to make it 1 year when we know they're not going to complete it with 1 year. He tells me they're 4 months away from getting permits from other agencies. So they're not going to get this thing done here. So I made it 2 years. You guys can change it any way you want to, but right now I have written as a 2-year permit.
Well, have we ever done a 2-year permit on anything?
No, not without winding up in court at some point in the future, so I would not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like 1 year.
I think it's a rubber stamp, Bruce, on a renewal. But if we could stick to the 1 year.
But
No, I'm fine with that. It's because as as we talked about, it's going to be a 4 to 5 year project.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
annual
but you know what,
review.
it would be nice, is it'd be nice for you to, it brings you back to us, we get updates of what's going on, we're vested, we're involved.
Yep, that's fine.
And,
Yeah,
it gives everybody the opportunity to guide the process a little bit.
and that's exactly the same basis we're doing with the marina in 3 Mile Harbor.
Right.
That's the same thing. We approve one project, and we just get a year-to-year update and a renewal.
So then, when you adopt this, I have an expiration date of May 8th, 2019, and you want to make that May 8th of next year.
Yes.
Correct.
And are there,
And then we have to make sure we change the actual, I have the thing on my computer at my office, so I'll just have to change that, but.
and are there fees associated with it each year? I would imagine so.
Renewal fees.
Renewal fees.
But it's modest.
I just have one question. Is there some way to ensure that a future board would not hold him up on renewal?
Well, let me say two things. First of all, once you've approved the project, if the project doesn't materially change, unless there's some external change, environmental or something like that, it's very difficult to not extend something you approved. The second thing, you should bear this in mind, they're taking Phragmites out of your pond. The longer the Phragmites stay in there, the more they grow, the smaller your pond is. So it's in the trustees' interest, as well as their interest, to remove the Phragmites.
Certainly, we understand that.
Yeah, but I think, I
we're-
don't, we can't, we don't have a crystal ball.
Shorter
into the
answer is
future.
no, we can't bind a future board.
Then-
But,
Diane, what kind of, we made some arrangement with your project in the marina. That's a multi-year project.
Right, but also with an annual renewal, that each year we would get
Right.
an update.
But was there any
Yeah.
special wording that put that in place?
No,
No?
no, just
I think
the,
we're all acting in
just the
good
verbiage
faith.
of the resolution authorizing issuance of the permit.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, so that's like in the minutes.
okay.
With the understanding,
Yeah.
the initial decision or information was based on, I believe, a 5-year project. So we have all that information to substantiate what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the same thing.
Okay,
That'd be fine, yeah.
all right.
Just can I borrow your pen for a second?
All right, so we have a motion from Jim.
Or a
A
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
as amended as to the date?
Yes,
As amended.
You can hand this down to Jim if he needs one.
It's an extra
This is
pen.
nice.
Yeah, I know, that's why I want it back. Okay. Anything else, Bruce?
That's it, thanks.
Okay,
Thank you,
great. Tom DeVries, you want to talk to us about horseshoe crabs?
This is about the plight of the horseshoe crabs. I think we all agree that horseshoe crabs are good. We want them to thrive. From beach walkers to the migrating birds to the baymen who collect the horseshoe crabs for bait. But they are in peril. I've been walking the beach up near my house for 30 years, and every year seems to be fewer and fewer of the horseshoe crabs. And now is the prime time, the full moon in May, full moon's tomorrow, but this is the time of year when they come ashore, they make their nest, they lay their eggs, and then they go back out, and 2 to 4 weeks later, under prime conditions, the eggs hatch and they make their way to the water. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a great presentation at the library by a guy from the Cornell Extension, and he indicated that every female makes several nests on the beach, lays about 80,000 eggs for her period, and if we're lucky, under good conditions, 5 will survive. But what happens, what I have observed, is that, yes, they come in, they lay their eggs, make their nests this time of year. Sure as shooting, tomorrow, the trucks are driving up and down the street, destroying the nests. And if we don't have the good nests, then of course we have no more horseshoe crabs. And what I was going to suggest, I don't know if every beach, on the bays and the harbors are nesting sites, or there are historic sites where there are more horseshoe crab nests. I don't know. But I'm wondering if we could identify, the prime nesting spots and during nesting season, limit driving on the beach there. That's my suggestion.
I know there is a group, whether it's Cornell or another, that collects data on horseshoe crab nesting sites.
Right.
So I think that would be a good place to start, is to start to get more information on the nesting site locations.
I know this is a little bit late because it's now and
It's already happening.
should have been here a month ago, yeah.
But I think it's a worthwhile undertaking to at least identify where these nesting sites are most concentrated, and then start to evaluate, what the impact is.
Do you think it's a possibility that,
I think anything's a possibility.
yeah?
It's easier to bring something like that forward if we can identify the beaches, because you should expect some pushback from some of the user groups.
I know.
But given the gestation time here, it's pretty short, it's a pretty modest disturbance. I think it would be probably much easier sell than some other things.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because everyone would benefit,
It's
including the baby.
What do you think about fencing? Would fencing be helpful?
Well, we'd have
Well,
to
I think
fence
that
from
it's
the
all
water
such
to
a-
the,
Such a
Yeah,
dramatic area, it would
Yeah.
probably make more sense to,
identify the spots.
to put signage up, close the beach, and, know that, heck, it's literally 30 days.
Yeah,
That- that's
is what you're
exactly
talk-
right.
Is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you're talking about, so.
horseshoe crabs.
do you think it's absolutely too late right now to,
I think this year it's
Yeah,
probably
right, right,
unreasonable
right.
to think
okay,
that we're gonna get that we're gonna agree with this and put the and identify the
Okay.
areas and get it up for tomorrow night.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
But I think this would be a good year to start gathering data.
okay.
Yeah, even if you took the beaches down in Northwest near where you walk frequently, and if you have a handheld GPS, start to delineate a few of the sites that you
Yeah,
locate.
that's true.
And
And usually by now, there would have been lots of nests.
Right.
I've seen one horseshoe crab.
But
this
they're
season.
only there for a relatively short period of time when they're nesting, 24, 48 hours,
Right,
and then they retreat.
right.
So, you
Yeah,
can miss
so-
them. I have seen quite a few this year myself,
Yeah,
so I was
okay.
encouraged.
Okay,
So, just in really concentrated areas,
okay,
not as spread out as I have seen in previous years.
right, gotcha. All right, well, I'll try to collect that data.
And I'll try and find out the group that was reaching out for reporting information. Maybe
Yeah, I
there's-
think Matt this fella from Cornell,
Cornell might be a good place to reach out
Yeah.
to
yeah,
and
okay,
see if we can't, get a connection there for you.
right, okay. All right,
All right, Tom?
good.
Is that
Thanks.
site
Thank you.
an area that the Baymen use for the launch or?
No, they would launch in Northwest Creek, I think, right?
For the most part, or Elway
Yeah,
Brook
I'm not
Road.
sure.
Yeah, right at the end of Northwest Landing Road, yeah,
I would think
So-
that's something that could be accommodated.
yeah, just not this year.
It's hardly ever used. I mean, it's not really driven on that much. Mile Hill, the end of Mile Hill Road.
It is actually, yeah.
Okay.
They either get on at Mile Hill or Whalebone Landing, the dirt road through the Grace Estate. So there's quite a bit,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you for your concern.
Thanks, Tom. Peter and Mark Meadows.
I didn't realize we're in the committee reports, so we'll wait if that's appropriate.
If you don't have to.
You want to get it over with?
Can you do it now?
Sure.
We have nothing more to say unless there are questions. So.
Was there a request to submit something last time, Mark?
I think there was a request. There was a request to submit what was already submitted.
Okay.
So
Okay,
it was in the package that I turned in.
okay.
There was a diagram
You
of.
clarified the size and shape of the finger piers that were placed last year under the prior permit,
Correct.
triangular now, and then the new permit, the new request is for additional finger piers.
Correct.
That was part of the phase that they were
Yeah.
doing.
This is a new portion. There is still in their phasing, but they're adding this piece in for new finger piers, which is still within that whole boat basin area.
Configuration.
Yeah, yeah. So, just add the lineage to their annual dock fee?
Mm-hmm.
And just in terms, Francis, you had asked about, this was the original permit.
Thank you.
And in there were it was in the
It's in the
additional
conditions.
essentially
Yeah.
saying that it was understanding that it was a 3-year project, and we would come back and say what we had done each year.
Mm-hmm.
3 or 5?
Ours was a 3.
Oh, okay.
So you could,
That would
I mean,
protect
it's
the
up to you.
integrity of the permit.
It was a fairly basic additional condition in the permit. And that would just give us well, you can read it, what it says. but
Right,
it's
right.
basically
It protects your
technical-
permit.
Technical renewal when we come back.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate the new finger piers are gonna increase the number of boats allowed that will fit in the marina? Or just offer more stability and safety for the boats that,
Correct, more
Yes,
access
yeah.
to the boats there.
yeah, okay. It's a good point to make.
All right, so what do we have to do with this?
I believe haven't we already approved the yearly renewal of the permit? So this is in addition to that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so this is a separate permit. This was a separate permit to allow the new finger piers at the marina.
There are additional finger piers that were
Right.
included in the
Right.
original dock and piling maintenance.
Shows a diagram that was submitted.
And then you
So-
could,
It's hard to see.
Yeah, I think I probably have it here.
So basically, this is the Marina Basin. We had one section of a finger pier that was elongated there that we asked for, and there was an additional finger pier here that we asked for. That's installed. This addition on that finger pier was not necessary when we installed the new dock here, because we went with the more stable finger piers with the triangulated ends. So what we're looking for now is an additional finger pier here for this summer, and then the potential to add an additional 3 finger piers here, here, and here, to the extent that a boat comes in and needs those finger piers. We don't want to have to come back and say, we'd like to put in one more for this boat and go through that.
the only difficulty I can see is if we, like with the annual agreement for the dock configuration, if we're going to include these new finger piers in the lineage, and yet in any given year you don't put them in,
Right, it's seasonal.
then it's gonna be like, are you gonna wanna pay for them if they haven't been in? And the amount of, like, the back and forth that we've had over the years, I just don't wanna get it all confusing again.
I don't,
Yeah, so think about that, whether,
Because they do come
Yeah.
out, right, at the end of the season?
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
they're
they've
in
got a
all-
bubble
all-
system, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
They become,
Once they go in, they're gonna stay.
yeah.
Oh, okay, that's,
The only thing I would just ask you to check is, I don't know if finger piers were included in the calculations of the dock permit.
Not, if they weren't there when we because we have the
Right.
drawing
Right.
that gives us all the dimensions. So if
Right.
they weren't there at that time, that permit we have with Dock A, Dock B, Dock C,
Right.
if they're not in that, then they would be additional.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Because remember, we counted pilings, and we were very, very specific.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that would be my only concern, is if you want to add 1, maybe 4. And if you don't put the 4 in, and we charge you for it, then it's gonna be more correspondence back and forth, and did anybody inspect it, and back and forth, and it just could turn into a mess.
When are the dock fees calculated?
June.
June?
So by that point, you typically have them in.
Right.
Right.
So the bill, Diane, I don't think that's gonna be an issue. the bill's gonna be, if their
As long as
dock-
they're put in, right,
Yeah, but if their dock's going in June, you're gonna
Right.
establish the invoice
right.
at that point, and they're gonna get billed for what they have in the water at that time.
That would make sense.
And then you would just have to know that, let's say you put in 2 or 3, not 4, this year. If you wanted 4, you'd have to come back next year.
Right.
And ask again,
Right.
okay, just.
And you would be
okay.
coming back anyway
Right,
with
With
the
the other-
You're
ongoing
gonna be
Right.
renewing.
maintenance of the
right, yeah.
marina.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can say up to 4 finger piers at blah, blah, blah size.
Right.
To be determined in June.
Okay.
Something like that,
That
yeah.
works. Yep.
Is this something we need to vote on?
Yes, it's a
Did you
permit.
want to give us,
Yeah.
So
did
do
you
we
guys want
wanna-
this back, or
Someone want to make a
do
motion?
we need this, or did I?
No, we don't need that.
Okay.
Diane, why don't you make the motion?
Okay.
Diane, why don't,
Okay, so
She's
I
got
would
the
make a
verbiage.
motion that we approve the application for Seacoast Enterprises at the 3 Mile Harbor Marina for up to 4 additional finger piers at what length?
One was 4 by 27.
One at 4 by 27,
Or do you want to just say per the diagram that was submitted?
per the diagram that was submitted, as is usually attached to the permit and application anyway. Good point. Which will be clarified and finalized prior to the annual agreement going out in June
Okay.
for the
I'll s-
exact
I'll
dimensions
second that.
with all standard conditions.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
aye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sarah Davison,
They hate the last one.
Georgia Pond.
Members of the board, again, I'm Sarah Davison with the Friends of Georgia Pond Foundation. Happy to be here. Just wanted to take an opportunity to give you a quick overview and update on some of the things that are coming down this season. We have a lot going on. The pond is an extraordinarily brown-green color right at the moment, and we've just heard from Dr. Gobler. Some of you know that it's a green microscopic algae, new to us, and it's thriving in the low salinity conditions of the pond, which unfortunately are as a result of not being able to let the pond this spring. So remains to be seen what happens with that, but as we're all learning, every year is different at Georgia Pond. So we had a meeting today with Brian and Rick and Jim with members, representatives from the town and the village and Friends of Georgia Pond to discuss a management plan for the watershed. This has been precipitated by the maintenance dredging permit, the draft permit that the board has received, which has requested such a plan. So we put our heads together. I think it's great news that all 3 levels of government are on board to work together to produce a plan in a very timely fashion to address the key water quality issues of the pond, which include the issue of the traditional spring and autumn letting, the actual maintenance dredging of the sand at the mouth of the pond, the input of nitrogen and phosphate from the surrounding watershed, and all of the issues that are contributing to the deteriorated water quality of the pond. So the maintenance dredging permit is of key importance, as we've discussed. The excavating of Georgia Cove is a Phragmites project, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then the last dredging issue of the pond is the fine sediment that is throughout the pond bottom. It's been preliminarily characterized by Dr. Gobler and analyzed by PACE Analytics. It's relatively clean. It has a few heavy metals in some places, so that's the good news. And the issue is, if one were to do a pilot environmental dredging project at Georgia Pond, where would you put the material, which I think I've mentioned before is characterized as black mayonnaise? It needs a long dewatering period, and it needs a place to dewater, so that has to be analyzed again by the stakeholders, the community, the municipalities, and and a dredging expert. The telemetry buoy I'll come to, and the aquatic weed harvester, the blue crab and fish study, the runoff issue into the pond. This relates to the Georgica Cove pipe at the end of Georgica Cove and the Route 27 rest stop. And one of the research projects that Dr. Gobler has started this year is what he calls microbial source tracking. And I've mentioned this to you before, but that's actually characterizing the Enterococcus and the E. coli bacteria as to the source of that bacteria, whether it's deer, dog, waterfowl, or human. And once we know that, which are the most significant contributors of that type of bacteria at those areas, we'll be able to decide, well, what's the best course of remediation. And buffers, and then the septic campaign. So I just brought you a few photos. Again, how do we get into this mess in the first place? This is Dr. Gobler's independent hydrogen loading model. And so we want to focus on where the problem is the worst. And 50% of the nitrogen entering Georgica Pond is coming from septic wastewater. So that's the biggie. We have to address that. What Friends wants to do is an outreach campaign to all the people who live in the 2-year travel time, which is the red zone around the pond. That's about 300 homes whose nitrogen waste contributes to the pond the quickest.
Sarah, can I ask
Yes.
you, so is this now, this is not, in other words, does that represent Dr. Gobler's findings, his conclusions to date, based upon where?
Yes.
So 50% is coming from wastewater.
Yes.
Only 1% from fertilizer,
Right.
lawn fertilizer.
So hang on to your horses, because you'll see the next slide where fertilizer plays a much more important role. But note also that 22% of the nitrogen is coming from the sediment. And that brings up, again, why dredging is so important to get.
That's more of a reintroduction. That's
sediment-
nitrogen that hasn't left the system.
Sediment flux, right. So, oops. Well, how do I go backwards? I want Rick to see the phosphorus slide. How do I go backwards, Rick? Do you know?
You can't.
You can go
can
forward,
never go
Sarah, go all the way
backwards.
around. Go all the way around if you have to. Just keep clicking through and you'll come back to the beginning.
Oh, okay, well, the point about the phosphorus slide, which was just like the nitrogen slide, is the critical, the most important source is the sediments, again, sediment flux, and runoff from the environment. All right, so this is the Georgica Cove bottleneck. This is a drone photo, and it's very, very clear what Phragmites is doing to this cove. It is choking off the channel, inhibiting tidal flushing to the upper reaches of the cove. And we have been working with this board, with Bruce Horwith's assistance, to try to get a DEC permit to excavate the root masses, a small region of that channel to increase the tidal flow. And, we're...
Should we just, you want to get the update, or should I just do that?
why don't you do it, Bruce? Come on up here.
Sure.
Yeah, let me just add one comment on that, because I saw it was up on the agenda for later, and that is that we finally have this fellow from Allied Habitat Services, which is a Connecticut-based firm that does hydraulic dredging and also has worked with this auger cutting head. And they're going to be coming down tomorrow for a site visit, because we've gotten as far as we could in terms of phone conversations, so we're actually going to be walking the area, and I'll have more to report back after that meeting.
Will the DEC be with you?
No, this is just for us to get the ideas about using this vendor and this approach.
Bruce, do you mind if I attend?
No, that'd be great. I don't have the time, I'll give you a
Just, you know
call.
what you do, just give me a yell in the morning.
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
So those are the key dredging issues at Georgica Pond: the 10-year maintenance dredging, this Phragmites root excavation, and then the fine sediment, which is throughout the pond, but key areas have been identified. This is Dr. Gobler's telemetry buoy, which is now in its 3rd season at the pond. It will be put in this week. Again, this gives us the real-time data of the salinity, the temperature, the pH, the blue-green count, and the chlorophyll count, which is a reflection of the other growth in the pond. So if the buoy was in today, which unfortunately it's not, it would be doing a very high chlorophyll reading, telling us that something's growing in the pond. And I wanted to just mention this very quickly. All of you know what this device is? Some of you know what this device is? Okay. This is the USGS pond gauge level. This is also on the edge of the cove. It's also a telemetry, it's a solar-powered telemetry conveyed information to the USGS. And this measures the level of the pond. And you can go on our website or the USGS website and get a reading of how high the pond is at any time. So this is a very valuable scientific tool we have to know how high the pond is. And I'm pleased to report that the village of East Hampton, with help from Friends of Georgia Pond Foundation, have just renewed a 3-year agreement with USGS to keep these readings going at Georgia Pond. This is the Georgia Cove stormwater drain. You're all familiar with that. During high rains, a brown mass of water comes out of this drain. The village has put filters in there, but we are testing the outflow, the water there, to see what exactly is coming into the pond, and then working with you and the village, we hope to have a remediation plan.
Sarah,
Wait.
I'm sorry, how many of those or like that are around the pond, would you say?
Well, this is the main stormwater drain into the pond up at Route 27. There are
Right.
2 culverts that go under Montauk Highway and drain into the pond. But they're draining runoff from the area, Route 27, the layoff, the rest stop, but also bringing the water from the tributaries, the creeks that are feeding the pond.
Right. So is this the only one of its kind that you know
I
of?
would say this is the only one that's draining such a very large area of the
Sure.
watershed and bringing in
Okay.
nutrients, so this is a top priority.
Where's the upper end of that pipe, do you know?
Route 114.
At the railroad underpass? So that's, in other words,
it's-
it's pipe from there.
Yeah, it's very,
I
it's
think
a
it's up by Long Lane, if I'm not mistaken, or no?
long lane, well, it's really at 114.
Mm-hmm.
Cove Hollow Road and 114, right? Near the railroad.
Yeah, Cove Hollow Road and 114.
Actually, not at the railroad underpass.
Well, it's right near there.
Yeah, I mean,
It's adjacent to
the
it.
DOT was amazed at how long this drainage pipe is.
When did they put that thing in, do you know?
Right, well, we have all that data, I don't remember on the top of my head, but it's been there for a long time. It's been amended and updated, and a recharge basin was put in, and, you know, again, the village has put filters in. It's been improved, but it's still a problem. Okay, then another, to address the runoff from nutrients, from fertilizers, from farmlands, we are trying to educate the pondfront homeowners about the importance of buffers. There are some excellent buffers at Georgia Pond, and then there are some lawns that go straight down to the water. And this is an example of a homeowner on Georgia Cove that some of you are familiar with, who has regraded their shoreline and planted a new buffer last year, and we're really looking forward to seeing how it grows in this year. I also wrote a very...
Doesn't look like much of a buffer.
Well, it's you know, it's less wide than would be ideal, but...
No, I'm just looking at the density of whatever's there.
Well, it was just planted, Jim, so let's go back this year and see.
The end of the year.
Let's see what it looks like now. I wrote a little piece I was asked by the Star to write a piece about buffers and their importance, and so I brought you some copies of that. But we will continue to be working with the homeowners to encourage buffers and learn more about them as we go. And then, of course, then the blue crab and the fish study. This is the little boat that the town board approved. You see the engine there. This is Dr. Brad Peterson's boat. He put in early March, but the pond was frozen and too shallow to pull. That's the otter trawl that he pulls behind to sample. So he had to come back in late March to sample, and I sent you all his report. This is Dr. Peterson's graduate student, Steve Heck, and he's just emptied out the hole from the otter troll in the muddy basin where he examined what they pulled up. And as you all know, unfortunately, there were no crabs found, and they trolled throughout the pond during the hibernation period. So this is alarming. Why were there no crabs found? Maybe it was a sampling problem, but Dr. Peterson does know what he's doing. So I'm hoping, again, that, blue-green algae or not opening the pond at the right time or whatever, we need to find out why there were no blue crabs. And,
Sarah,
yes.
are there any plans to, through observation or further research, look for the presence of blue claw crabs this summer?
Oh, yes, that's part of Dr. Peterson's study. This was just to study, the March work was just to study the crabs that were hibernating in the mud, overwintering, as it were. He'll be back in July in the same boat with the same graduate student with a fyke and other traps to sample them, when they're not hibernating. And also, Dr. Gobler will be sampling for crab larvae in the water to know if they've spawned, to get a better handle on the life cycle of the blue crab at the pond.
Great, thank you.
So, any other questions? Thank you so much for your support and your encouragement. We love working with you, and we really appreciate your concern for Georgia Pond.
You're welcome.
Thank
On
you,
another
Sarah.
note, I may have pine straw tomorrow morning. I may.
I need to get my little thingy out of here. Rick, can I just pull this stick out?
Here's the IT department.
Don't ask me what you can pull out. It's my problem. Whatever you do, don't unplug it. Well, it's a little late.
Yeah. Oh, son of a gun.
What happens when that?
Whatever should
Okay,
happen
thank you,
has already
Sarah.
happened.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, next, Kevin Mccallister, you want to talk about methoprene?
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Kevin.
Kevin
Kev.
Mccallister, Defend H2O. Thank you, Francis, and let me begin. I think it's worth maybe reiterating a few points that I made, I think it was February, when you were absent that particular day. I came to really, I think, inform the board and try to correct some of the reports that were followed, basically the legislative meetings that approved the 2017 work plan. And if you recall, because we certainly met to talk about that work plan, probably in October I came before the board to ask for continued support in opposition of methoprene spraying, which you, of course, stepped up to. In, I guess, November 28th, that was the first meeting with the Public Works Committee, with their undertake reviewing the work plan. There was quite a bit of discussion. I was there to provide some input on that discussion. Ultimately, Legislator Fleming had tabled it in the interest of communicating with both Southampton trustees as well as East Hampton. I believe on December 8th is when you met with the legislator, certainly I guess to express your interests and concerns perhaps on the methoprene spraying. At the December 12th meeting, that's where there was actual legislative action in the form of the Public Works Committee approving the plan. And again, not being present at the meeting, the trustees with, I guess, other town staff, DPW staff, and Legislator Fleming, as I understand it. But I can tell you the actual discussion at the plan that preceded the committee's approval was very limited to acknowledging that it was a very positive, productive meeting, that DPW would make a greater effort of better coordination and communications, particularly in the realm of public education. And further, I think, try to explore water management initiatives that ultimately would lead to reduction in breeding. I can tell you with certainty there was certainly no concessions. It's reflected in the 2017 work plan, and I have the language. I know as we're going forward, and again, this is a bit Groundhog Day with addressing methoprene for 10 years. I just want to offer my note of caution in embarking on the, I guess, the no spray trial area. A great deal of science has been in the works or has been generated over the years. And I certainly have subscribed to Dr. Michael Horst's work that looked at crustacea, as well as Dr. Hershey out in Minnesota on non-target insects. And although the impacts are obscure, meaning we're not going to really see them at adult life stages, but rather early life stages. So the notion of, I guess, embarking on another study when the science is out there, and moreover, Suffolk County spent really $5 million on an EIS, environmental impact study, to build a firewall around their program. So to go toe-to-toe with the science, I believe, is a losing prospect. Again, not knowing the components of what the board is considering, I urge you, if there's a no spray test, it is the entirety of a watershed, and really the only litmus test is, and I don't mean this in a really cute way, but if the sky is falling. And quite frankly, vector control with respect to their program bases their effectiveness and response, more importantly, to the number of phone calls that they receive relative to nuisance control. So, to have let's say Accabonac or Napeague off limits, that's a very positive thing, and I'm certainly with the community we have in East Hampton, that it's going to be proven that it's not an issue. But I know Suffolk County will go to great lengths, certainly not to allow any meaningful science come forward. And in no disrespect, but the studies that I cited with Hershey and Michael Horst, this is long-term stuff. This is very expensive research. We're not equipped to do such a study. To bring in a consultant, I think is a mistake. A university, that's a multi-year prospect. So, where it perhaps is more beneficial to the board, try to reach out, and I can provide you with contact information for Dr. Horst up in Maine. He wrote a very lengthy critique, I'll call it, on the environmental impact study, pointing out the flaws that, again, we're not looking at the lower life stages and the incidental, collateral damages, I'll call them, to various forms of biota in the crustaceans and non-targets. So it's a black hole, and I urge you not to go down that path. I think it's, if you are at a place, and you continue to be at a place where you are opposed to the application of a poison over these marshes, on average every 2 weeks with the tidal cycles. They commenced spraying as of last week. At least Southampton certainly was treated. In West Neck, I have photographs.
We were not, there were no East Hampton
I saw
sites
that
on the schedule.
on the notice. And perhaps that reflects to the board's posture on this. But again, to try to partition off a section of a marsh where no spray, when you talk about drift, it's just, the complexities are just, too much. And again, having been there and watched, the science, I guess, the competing science toe-to-toe, It's, again, a losing prospect that, you know, we'll be ill-equipped to, you know, to prevail on. And again, let's you know, accept or not accept, or should, for that matter, review the literature and the scientific researches that's out there. And if it reinforces your position, hold fast to that position. And let's try to move, you know, Suffolk County more in the political manner than scientific, you know, approach.
Yeah, but you know, Kevin, I think that no spray area, as much as you're right, there's issues of drift, there's a whole bunch of variables that come into play there. There is a huge public relations potential here, that if you can demonstrate to the property owners, and that's where these complaints are driven from the property owners. If you can demonstrate to the property owners in that area that, okay, we didn't have the spraying here, and yet we really didn't, the mosquitoes weren't the issue that we were afraid of. You know, you've won a few people over, you've won some of those phone calls over. I wouldn't.
Jim, you're misunderstanding. You know, when I said the entirety of the watershed, I see benefit to that. And to my point, the sky's not falling.
Yeah,
you would, in fact, win people over.
That perhaps we can expand on that. Perhaps we can do some missionary work in some other areas and kind of get a ball rolling here. But right now, I think you're right. You're not going to move Suffolk County's position, quite frankly, because there's nothing to inspire them to change it right now. So
and for your information, both Senator Laval and Assemblyman Thiel have reintroduced a ban on methoprene, statewide ban. It will be viewed favorably by the Environment Committee within the Assembly. That process is undetermined. And further, I've been in communications with Senator Christopher Murphy over in Connecticut. He has not heard back from Governor Cuomo on his request of 2 years ago for a statewide ban in New York to follow suit with Connecticut. And my understanding is they will consider following up with that original letter to further urge the governor to you know, give it some review. So again, without knowing the details of what the board was considering, and you know, just so we're clear, you know, if we have a no spray over entire watershed, you know, a marsh complex such as Accabonac, that's a positive thing, because I'm certain that again, at the end of you know, a season, we'll neither see incidents of disease or notable increase in problems and phone calls. But, you know, again, that's based on, I think, this community's connection to water resources and natural resources. So that's my recommendation to the board. You know, and, you know, I hope you know, take it into consideration as you perhaps start to tailor you know, whatever review or study that you are considering.
Kevin, you know, we realize this project is minuscule, but we were in a situation where nothing was being done. And after years of badgering Vector Control, we finally got them to move a little bit. And
Which is a positive.
which is a
it's
positive
token,
thing.
but it's measurable.
It's measurable.
Bill, I'm not dismissing
Yeah.
that. Again, I'll emphasize his point.
No,
You know,
we-
and again, without clarity on the details. But if you're talking about, you know, a section of Accabonac that's off limits, you know, I don't think it's going to be meaningful. I would urge you to include the entire, you know, basically marsh complex of said.
But Kevin, you know what we've got to balance this with is the realities. Okay, the realities were Suffolk County wasn't going to accept that. Okay, they were not going to move on that this year. So let's start with a point. Let's keep pushing it. Okay, let's not give up. This isn't something we recognize. You've been at this a lot longer than we have. Okay, so I can understand the level of impatience you have. But on our end, We asked for something, we did get some response. Granted, it doesn't measure up to the threshold of what you see as a meaningful project, but I would think that we would do more damage to the case to turn around and walk away from that than we are by accepting it and moving forward with it.
We're accepting it with its limitations as a first step.
Yeah.
Okay, so this, as I understand, will not be crafted until 2018?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, you know, we have a season,
To-
perhaps at their discretion, 2017, with the application of methoprene within
And
East
during that
Hampton County.
time, we intend to collect as much data in that targeted area as possible so that we can use that as a base, more or less, to compare to when they no longer spray.
And we
Okay,
can keep
this is,
pushing, and then we can keep pushing this, we can try, and, you know, if we can get some additional property owners in this area to come forward and petition the county, maybe they'll re-examine this, maybe they'll take another look at it, but, you know, we're not gonna know that
We've
unless
targeted-
we try.
We've targeted an area where the property owners are very interested in doing this. And it's a fairly large area, and I think that once we start, we have the ability to expand that.
And there is a petition being circulated currently that is
And
garnering
what are the measurables?
a lot of
Is it,
support.
you know, are you
Well, they're
looking at biota in the, you know, the pans and
You
ponds?
can't get
or-
scientific on me.
I don't, I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
We're going to look at dragonflies, we're going to look at mosquitoes, we're going to look, we're still working on exactly how it's going to go. We're going to hire a third party to do the collections for us.
Okay. Will that plan be crafted and I guess, you know, open for public review at some point?
Well, actually, if you wanna participate in this and give us some input.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
You're welcome to do that.
Okay.
Now, let me just say something too, the other side of the coin. I've spoken to a number of people at Lazy Point who have been there for so long. They said sometimes the mosquitoes are so bad that when you come out in the morning, your kayak's been moved. So, you know, that has to be addressed too. Thank you.
Yes, that's an overall mosquito control program that should be implemented in all watersheds.
But there's also a lot of belief that the methoprim is
Yeah.
killing off the predators of the mosquitoes.
No, I understand,
So-
and
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
telling,
It's a multi-pronged approach to try
Right.
and deal with mosquitoes.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm inclined to think, as Kevin, you know, that I am concerned, but it's important to share also the concerns, or the, you know, inconvenience, and folks can't go out of their house sometimes. It really gets bad down there, so. don't
And
know if
I
there's
just
some-
ask you to be mindful that the damages are, in fact, generally obscure. So, you know, the evidence, you know, we're not gonna see blue crabs strewn on shorelines or, you know, lobsters, or maybe even dragonflies dropping out of the air. But, again, the damage at low life stages, early life stages, is real. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
very good.
we'd love to have you
Good, thank you.
participate.
Thank you so much for giving me a bit of latitude on
And,
addressing.
Thanks, Kevin.
all right, Carl Iris? Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board.
Hey, Carl.
How are you tonight?
Good.
My name is Carl Iris. I'm an attorney, East Hampton, New York. I represent Bahia de los Sueños Partners. They are landowners that own property at 22 3 Mile Harbor Drive in East Hampton. They're seeking the trustees' permission to construct an access stairway. There's a considerably high bluff at their property, and they want to be able to get down onto the beach.
You're on 3 Mile Harbor Drive.
Yeah, 3 Mile Harbor Drive.
You have a survey?
Yeah, we've submitted a survey, 4 copies of the surveys,
Do we have a copy of the survey?
but I have this.
Here we go.
If you look on the stairway, you can see that the staircase was designed to have its bottom as close to the vertical portions of the bluff as possible, and it terminates at about 4.8 feet of elevation. This is shown on the survey. The bottom of the stairs is also landward of the tie line, the mean high water, coastal erosion hazards area, and the town's wetlands demarcation. As such, I think I submit that the proposed staircase is unlikely to interfere with the public's ability to pass and repass along this portion of the shoreline. And the landward-most location of this is also the best location to reduce any possibility of storm damage to the stairs and any resultant flotsam.
If it is above the mean high water mark, the trustees have no jurisdiction.
Personally, I'd question that.
Trustees do
I'd like
not
to see the
own
deed.
anything
I'd like to
in
see
the
a
harbor
deed.
above the mean high
I'd
water.
like to see a deed. I would like to read a deed.
You can go back and look at the
I'd like to see
trustee
a deed.
records and the town
I would like
records.
to see a deed. I would like to
All
see a
land
deed.
conveyed by the trustees in the inner harbors of the town
I know, you've told
always
me that,
ran to
you've
the
told me
water
that many, many times.
ran to the water line.
I still don't, I'm not convinced.
And not believe it, but it's true.
Okay.
And should the shoreline migrate what's now landward, these stairs are sufficiently away from that it shouldn't interfere with the public's ability to pass and repass.
I'm just curious, Carl, does the bottom stairs have like platform, is that like on a hinge, or is it straight down?
It's not, but if the trustees have some
No.
design expertise, I would be willing to submit that to my client.
Yeah,
In the past, we have had some staircases that the last area can be either retracted, like slide up or flip back or something along those lines, so that in storm events,
Or ice.
you can, or ice, you can get them out of the way so that you're not repairing it year after year. So it's something to consider.
I'd be happy to make that suggestion to
Yeah.
the client. I'd advise he take the trustees up on that idea. It'll save him future repair costs, and it'll,
exactly.
Pretty
Right.
common, you can get somebody to make these things up out of aluminum, and it's a pretty modest expense. There's actually a guy that designs a lot of that stuff. He's here tonight, he's sitting in the back.
there's only one guy sitting in the back.
No, but it's pretty common to do that at Carl, and it's like an easy fix.
Is this a new
Have any more-
application we should let the
Even
committee
though
take a look at?
Right,
before
any
we
more
approve?
questions?
Watermark,
Not at this
No more
time.
preliminary?
getting
Okay.
there,
Look at the
gets nice,
application
pushing
first,
up
yeah.
against your time.
And continue
Yep.
to
And
keep.
it'll wrench, whatever.
4 feet, it's still.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, you know, rather,
Floods the last stuff.
rather than it busted up, you can just fold it back and saves replacing it.
So Carl will give it to the committee for review. If they have any questions, they'll forward them to you.
Thank you, that's what I'm here for.
Okay,
All right, thank you for your consideration.
sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Carl.
Take care, everyone.
Okay. All right, new business. Accabonac Hog Creek, B. Sullivan at 93 Gerard Drive.
I haven't had an opportunity to discuss this with Tyler, and he's not here this evening. But in review of the files, while most of the paperwork spelled out in the agent's letter to us and the information she provided, does appear that everything had been completed as per our permits in the past. She does indicate that there was some damage to the stairway platform and boardwalk following Hurricane Sandy. So the only thing I'd like to do now is maybe request from her some current photos of the repaired bulkhead, and perhaps also just clarify for us whether any of that stair platform or whatever is in place at this time. I mean, had it been repaired after the hurricane without a permit? Oh, you're here. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't see you back there. Okay,
Good evening, members of the board.
yeah. So the updated survey that we have is from '96.
Correct.
So that is still showing the walkway, stairway, platform.
Right.
So-
So let me just, I found a little bit more information. I've been sort of sifting through all the planning department files and also the files that the owner has owned this property for a great deal of time. She owned it during both of the permits that were pulled by the trustees in 93 and 2003, and she was an elderly woman and didn't understand that they didn't obtain a CO. She just passed away recently, it's now in the estate in the control of her children, so they're trying to clean up all these. But she had a box of every single file that she ever had, so I've been sifting through that. And part of, I just want to amend what I said about there was damage in Hurricane Sandy, but when I was studying the aerial photographs, there was no evidence of any of these structures after 2001. They were on other parts of the property, so it was removed longer than I thought it had been. So the only structures that exist that were covered under your permits that they want to still maintain is the bulkhead. So that was the one replacement in 1993, and then 10 years later, it was basically the same permit over again.
Right.
They have no intention of rebuilding the walkway or the stairway or the platform because there's no longer a beach. There used to be, how they described it is they used to have a sand landing spot. Now it's water up to the bulkhead most of the time, so there's no point in having a stairway.
Okay.
So they just want to, and I have a new survey that was just done, which I'd be happy to submit to the board's files that shows that there's nothing there except for the bulkhead.
That would be great, just to put in the file, along with some current photographs would be great. as
Sure,
well,
or,
if
I
you
mean,
mind.
if anybody wants to make a site visit,
Yep.
or,
I mean,
I can submit photographs.
yeah, yeah. I
Nice-
mean,
nice
I'm
to go
just,
on the
I'm
water
just
and-
going off the paperwork, and you can tell the bulkhead was built in place. So I don't have any problem with that. I don't know if, though, perhaps what we should do is just allow Tyler an opportunity to review the information, and maybe he'd like to do the vote on site, and if you get us the other information in the interim, then 2 weeks from now, I wouldn't have a problem notifying the building inspector that he can issue the CO.
Okay, just so I'm clear on the photographs, you want a photograph of the bulkhead?
Yeah.
Okay. I may need somebody with a boat. I guess I can hang
Or
out.
a
I'll figure that
drone.
one out. And also
Yeah.
the new survey.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay,
great.
I'd be
Yep,
happy to
and
do
that way
that.
the file would be complete, and,
I'll submit it this
yeah.
week.
All right,
Thanks.
and then we'll,
While you're up there, do you want to talk about Leiden?
Sure.
Okay, who's got that?
Jim?
There's an application in here for T. Leiden at 281 Shore Road. It's one of our Lazy Point lots for the placement of a 12 by 16
Right,
storage shed?
192 square feet.
Yeah. I went by and the application was completed, had a current survey with it, shows the proposed location of the shed. It's compliant with all the setbacks for an accessory structure. I did stop by the site today. It's a completely open site with the respect to a few trees. It looks like it fits fine in the site. I don't see any reason why we can't approve it.
or is the verification forms attached to the application signed appropriately? One by the homeowner, or both by the homeowner, one by homeowner, one by agent?
I submitted them in duplicate. They're originals, wet signatures on one copy.
Francis, you have a copy.
I have it.
Yeah, here, I've got it right here, Diane.
And oh, that's the entire thing?
That's everything. I think the survey's there as well.
Okay. Okay. You don't know who your construction company's gonna be yet?
Is that a prefab type?
He was trying to see if it was more budget conscious to go prefab or stick-built. It's sort of at that teetering edge of a shed where it's 12 by 16, it's kind of large to get it here. So he was still looking into that.
But it's an open site, I mean.
Oh, it's
you
going
could-
in the middle of
yeah,
the
you
lawn
could-
area.
You could do it pretty easily if that's the route they,
And the dimensions wouldn't change?
Would not change.
No.
And what materials are being proposed for the shed?
Just a natural untreated cedar, either shingles or shiplap or some sort of siding.
Should be okay. So did we have a motion?
well, Diane's reviewing the
Yeah.
application. There's no motions yet.
Okay. Yeah, application's
Is it in
complete,
order? I'd
except
like
we
to-
don't know who this contractor's gonna be, so we should be notified of that. A condition of the permit should be that we'd receive that notification prior to start of the project.
Okay, the way that I submitted the parallel building permit application was it was owner certified because he's actually a general contractor. So if it is indeed something he's going to build and not prefab, do you want me just to submit a letter to your file?
Yes.
Is he a licensed builder?
He doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to
if
be.
He's doing it on his
It's
own
He's
property.
owner-occupied residence.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I have some experience with the sheds, like at Coffolds. They're excellent, and it's easy, just truck drops it. so easy, so
Okay,
nice.
but I don't think we're in a
Yeah.
position to basically recommend a particular manufacturer.
Personally, not as a trustee, just personally.
I too
If you would
like
like to
that
look at-
company.
Yes,
Okay.
Sorry.
Too, I like them
Yes.
too.
okay.
Right now, he's planning on building it
Wasn't
himself, so
intended
if
that way.
we do decide to go with
I'd like to
either a
make,
general
I'd like
contractor or a
to
prefab, I'll
make a
put the letter in.
motion to approve this.
And I would second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
With all standard, all standard conditions plus notification if there's a contractor and/or he's doing it himself.
Right, can we just do it,
Okay.
right now, the building permit's been filed as if he's doing it himself. If we change from that, I would be happy to submit a letter. I think that would be
Okay.
the most,
Okay,
because I'll have to
Okay.
change it with their files as well.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, Village ZBA notice of hearing. This hearing will take place on May 12th at 11
This
a.m.
Friday.
Yep.
I actually started out to go there today, I just ran out of time. I got my town stuff done, I'm gonna run by tomorrow, and I'll
Okay.
look at this.
Which one is this?
Do you want me to read it?
What's the
Yeah,
name,
go-
Francis?
That's that one,
Further Lane LLC.
yeah.
Yeah, I took a look at that project. If you want to read it first, Francis. I'm
Okay, application of 174 Further Lane LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-10-1-34, for variances from Chapter 124 Preservation of Dunes. Variances are required from Section 124-1B to legalize the installation of 4 subsurface stormwater dry wells located between 4 and 13 feet from the 20-foot contour, where the required setbacks are 25 feet. Variances are required from Section 124-1B, parentheses 1 and 2, to legalize the construction of fencing located south of the 20-foot contour, where the required setback is 25 feet. The subject property is 150,338 square feet in area, is located at 174 Further Lane in Residence District R160, and adjoins the Atlantic Ocean. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SECR.
Personally, I would just say I wouldn't have a problem with the variance for the stormwater dry wells. They can only be beneficial, but then unfortunately, they were built within that setback area. A fencing on a parcel that size on the ocean, I would recommend any fencing inside that 24 contour line be removed and relocated. Got enough, it should have enough space. You don't need to get in there. Personal opinion.
Okay.
Okay, did you stop
Noted.
and look at the plans?
No,
For this?
I just looked at that, just that,
Okay.
just going by that
I'd like to
description.
actually look at the plans and see
Okay.
truly whether this is something that we should have an interest in or not.
Right.
Okay. All right, Georgica, application of D. Birch at 31 Turbo Lane for Phragmites removal.
Okay, I had a conversation with their agent this afternoon. I'm meeting with them at Friday at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And what this is, just to make this clear, apparently, Lori, this was a property that had a permit to cut Phragmites as late as 2010. And there was some subsequent cutting going on at this property with no permits. And this was noted, was it by the village? They said that the agent said they had gotten a letter from us. I have a feeling they had gotten a letter from the village about the activities that were going on there. And now what there is an application for the removal of the Phragmites and some revegetation. I don't think it's gonna make sense to go into the details on that tonight. I would like to meet with the
Did
applicant's
they
agent.
also propose some of the biologs, coconut logs, whatever they're called?
I haven't even gotten to that
Okay,
point in the application. I'd like them to
Alright.
walk me through this
Yeah. Yeah,
before we go any farther.
yeah, okay.
What is it, 31, you said 31 Turbo Lane?
Yes.
31 Turbo.
It appears that the supporting documents that they sent with photos show cut Phragmites, and these are recent photos. So they're essentially in a violation situation right now.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting, I was looking recently at an old photograph, like early 1900s, black and white photograph. And it was of the end of Turbell Lane, which comes off of Ocean Avenue in the village. There was no vegetation right to the water's edge. It was all grazing land in the old days. But what's interesting to me is, at that time, there were no, that's right, there were no reeds at the water's edge, no phragmites. I mean, I don't know whether, you know, in the days when they grazed, the animals just ate them right down to the water's edge, or whether, you know, the local people would cut everything to use it, you know, like they would cut meadoway, but it goes right to the water's edge. And, you know, before the days of lawnmowers and stuff, there were no phragmites at the edge of the shoreline.
All right.
Hey, Brian, do you want to meet me with that application? Right now, it's tentative for 10 o'clock on Friday. They're going to call and confirm,
Okay.
and I'll get back to you.
All right, we'll move down to Lazy Point, Napeag. We did Leiden. Request for addition to Hovel lease, lot 36N at Lazy Point. Let's see.
I did look at the materials with this.
Oh, this is it, okay,
The guy was adding his daughter, I think, onto the lease.
okay.
Look,
And you were satisfied with it?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or want to make a motion to?
Just Mr. Havel and his daughter?
Yep.
So he intends to transfer an undivided one-half interest of the house and ask her to be added to the lease. And how's that been handled in the past when there was?
It's as per the rules and regs, which I don't think I have a copy of with me tonight. But there's, I think, trying to think about the differences between adding someone to a lease versus, you know, a transfer of the lease to a new person. But I do, to add them, I think they still need to prove residency. I'm not sure whether a notice in the paper is required. And I think a bill of sale. So I think it's the bill of sale and
Why would
well, the
there
bill of
be a
sale would
bill
be-
of sale?
Well, just to show ownership interest in the house. So, and he's put that in his letter. He plans to give half of the ownership to his daughter. It's the ownership interest in the house. And that she's a resident, which then you know going forward that the house is being lived in or maintained by a local person. It's not that, see, in the past, what had happened is you could add someone to the lease, but if there was no proof of residency or ownership interest, they could be living in Timbuktu. And our leases were being sent away. So this was just initiated.
She provided a driver's license.
Right,
And
yeah.
she also has a voter's, board.
Yeah.
And a voter's card.
Right, so she's a
Yes. So she's
resident.
good, yeah.
So if you just want to take a quick look at the rules and regs and see if there's anything I'm forgetting with regard to adding someone to the lease, it seems like it's good to go.
It
It's not-
does
it's
sound,
not-
yeah.
Not a hard process.
No.
No.
And I recall the process, and I think that covers it all.
So is there a bill of sale document in this package?
Well,
or is that-
No, I didn't see a bill of
he's
sale.
done the letter that says that's what he's going to do. I don't know what would happen after that, Rick. The
Well, no,
deed
it's
would
an interesting
change,
question.
or-
Suppose
I mean, maybe look at the rules and regs and get the clarification first before we knock ourselves out here.
I'm guessing, that, well, why put her on the lease if you're not gonna give it interest in the house, you know?
Right.
So, I don't know what they were thinking in that regard.
So we
have to
really just
communicate
need
with
is a
them, see if
letter.
They're actually gonna give her part interest in
We
the
have the letter.
I mean, there's a letter in place.
I
What,
mean,
giving
if
a
she
half
gets
interest in the
ownership
house?
interest in the house, then by the time that goes through all the legal processes, if you have a copy of the tax bill, it's gonna show the two owners, right? So there's your, that'll be done.
Is this something we need to vote on?
Well, I think you should get information about
Yeah.
their intention with regard to the ownership of the house.
The letter seems to indicate that that's the objective.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a thing, there's a,
Should we
I
add?
don't know what I mean, usually you're dealing with I don't know how often you deal with additions to leases. Usually you're dealing with an actual transfer. So I guess we get a copy of the bill of sale.
Yeah, so we should
Is
ask
an
for a
agreement
bill
and
of
I don't know if we
transfer of
get that-
ownership.
I don't know if we get that before that. I mean, if you're selling the house, let's say. And I think we've only done one
You
or
know
two
what?
of these.
That's
Hey, Rick,
exact- That's right
Rick,
there.
I think this is what you're looking for here.
Oh, yeah, all right.
So we could vote on this?
It's a personal property, so I guess that would probably work. Technically, you're right, it's personal property, you do a bill of sale.
Yeah, here's the,
You do a document that
Also,
signs
sign
after
it.
your rights of ownership, I'd be hard to take it back.
that's right. Look at the,
Oh, yeah. Nice earrings.
Oh, they wanted to speak.
like 12 deer out there.
Wow. Wow.
But the question is, do we want a
Diane?
bill of sale
Yeah.
associated with the,
I would just, yeah, I mean, I think this is all we need. I would just clarify with the rules and regs, just to make sure we have what we need. But this does appear to be,
Well, they're
from my
tying back
recollection,
the
what we
rules and
need.
regulations. They're saying transfer of right, title, and ownership as specified in the trustee
oh,
regulations. So they're
okay.
trying to meet the
So-
regulations.
Okay.
Can we make a motion on this?
Oh, as defined in the rules, and
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I would like
That's
to see
fine.
it.
Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna agree to it, but I do think, she's referencing the rules and regs as adopted June 14, 1988, which, as we know, we updated
last year?
last year. So just for the record, just to know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay, but otherwise it seems fine.
It's father to daughter. I
Yeah, I don't think
really
there's a
don't think it's a
problem.
big,
No, it's
No.
great.
It's
No,
a state.
but you don't want anything to come back and be a pain in the neck for
Yeah.
them in the future either.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Request to transfer Petrie Wolf lease, Lot 34N at Lazy Point Road, to Lori M. Chemla.
I don't believe I've seen that one.
Yeah, but we don't have a copy of the driver's license or anything yet on that?
I don't see anything here yet.
Yeah.
Lori, is there anything
I
here?
already spoke with them. We have
Okay, so this,
So that's
okay, so
coming?
we don't have anything yet.
Okay, so that's coming.
Yeah,
Just table.
okay. 3 Mile Harbor, notification of completion for Lerner Dock, biologs and plantings.
That's Brian Burns.
Okay, Brian Burns.
All right. Been-
Stepping up right
I've been
now. Brian
practicing.
Burns, yeah.
All right, I got to see this project before and after. This is with regards to tax map 0300-118-1-52, 10 Oyster Shores Road, 3 Mile Harbor, East Hampton. And brief description. The remains of the old bulkhead are to be removed and replaced with a 120-foot line of biologs at mean high water. And the vegetation is indigenous, such as bayberry, spartina, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the other two, but Jim tells me that they're acceptable, so. We will take place within and behind the biologs. 114 feet upland retaining wall and the French drain are also proposed beyond trustee jurisdiction. The French drain is actually closer to the house, so I guess that's what they mean when they say that. The dock has been replaced in kind. It's 3 feet by 14.5 ramp and a 9 by 12-foot float, and
And it appears to be non-treated materials.
yes, that's correct. I do have some pictures. This is, my 4th year. These guys really did a knockout job, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they really did a lot of work and maybe too much work, but I would, if nobody has any questions, I would make a motion that we accept and close out this permit.
Did we get the as-built survey?
Yes.
Yes?
As-built survey, yeah,
Yes, okay,
we've got 5 copies.
Here.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
April 2017.
Okay.
Nice project.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This was interesting because they wanted to do the biologs in Three Mile Harbor. I think this was the first one in Three Mile Harbor. So it'll be interesting to see how they hold up there. Yeah.
Yeah, this particular body of water is, it almost looks like it's like a creek, you know? It's like a finger. So there's not a lot of wave action there, but it will serve its purpose, I'm sure.
You want to make a motion, Brian, that we accept this?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we accept this application and close out the permit.
I'd like to second it.
All in favor?
Standard condition.
All
Now,
the-
this isn't a new
yeah.
application. This is
No.
just notification of completion.
Right, and the building department's requesting whether we consider it closed, so.
Send in a notification.
Yep. We're all good?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
That's fine.
all right. Let's see, where are we now? Mr. Shores. Did that one. PND Hamptons at 10 3 Mile Harbor Drive. Request from building inspector to issue C of O. Oh, is that the one? Maybe I got these mixed up. Yep, 10 3 Mile Harbor Drive. Trustee permit for bulkhead repair, batter piling replacement, and staircase reconstruction at the above referenced property. Would this be you also, Brian?
Well,
Or
yeah, I mean, I
Diane?
have other committee members. I didn't do this one, no.
Okay, someone needs to take a look at this.
This is like a relatively new communication.
Yeah, I don't recall having any paperwork on it, but if you give it to me, I'll be happy to take care of it.
Okay, and that will do it for new business. Old business. Here we go again. Trustee procedures for shoreline fencing. Nothing.
I've not been calling them. I mean, I'll try calling again.
Oh, I know. Trying to get anything out of that
I mean, let me ask you a
office
question. I
is-
mean, the changes that we asked them to do are relatively minor.
They're very
Are
minor.
you getting any applications for shoreline fencing?
No.
No,
Not recently, but we have people who were holding back until
That's right.
this was
I mean,
done.
you have quite a bit of control even under the current, regulations, so I'm afraid that people are just doing it, and that's the problem with the legislation. The idea was to make it a little bit simpler for them, so that they'll actually come to you for permits.
Right.
And if I could just recommend, and we've done this in the past, keep it on the front burner, but please, don't keep putting it on the agenda. It's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but you know what? It'd be really nice to get this done.
Yeah.
And implemented, because, right now, what's the point of enforcing the rules according to what they are now?
Do we
No, they're
give a
still valid,
liaison or
the
anything
rules
as a
as they
town
are
board?
now.
Well, it's-
Trustees?
What's
They
that?
should be
Trustees have a
enforced.
town board liaison?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there still a town board
What's that?
liaison?
No, we're equal.
So that, they don't
Liaison.
assign anyone to be the director?
They're equal.
No, but Peter seems to
Yeah.
be the one who
Yeah.
is paying attention to this.
I think we should
Peter-
reach out. Someone should take a lead.
I think we reached
can
out. Wasn't he reached
I'll
out to a
call
few times?
Yeah, a number of times.
Want me to call Peter? I'll call Peter.
Yeah.
Please.
I'll call Peter.
Okay.
And the same thing with the highway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'll call Peter.
All right,
I'll
great.
Jump over the town attorney's office. I'll just call directly to the town board.
Okay. I don't know if we want to talk about this tonight, but we had a discussion with our
think-
attorney last week
Yeah,
about,
the situation has changed since then, so we might want to discuss that in executive session.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Beach driving
Oh, okay.
permits.
So legal, legally, yeah.
Okay.
New def-
Georgia Pond dredging, South
We covered
Inlet, we covered with
Georgia Cove, we
Cove.
covered.
Deepwater Wind Farm, information received from Bonnie Brady. Okay, Bonnie gave us a package of paper here. I would encourage everybody to take a look at it.
And just as a side note, we will be meeting with several members of the public this Wednesday night at our Harbor Management Committee meeting regarding Deepwater,
Okay.
and Ms. Brady will be joining us.
Does that include a meal?
Yes, it does. If you bring it.
It's like Swedish
it does
fish.
include it. Yeah, there's still, I think there's
There's
some
still
up
some
on
in
top
the-
of that.
Right.
filing
Still some on
cabinet.
top of the
I was-
filing
Two
cabinet.
bottles of
Open it out
water,
today.
because I took one of the bottles of water, we're down to 2.
Okay.
So, but there are no permits have actually been applied for yet
Well,
from
they-
Deepwater for
Well,
any
they're
project.
applying to the state and,
Applying,
Feds, yeah,
yeah,
but
Sounds
they're
like they're
just,
ways away from us, frankly.
yeah.
yeah.
right. Can we get
Well-
copies of what they're doing, though, as they move through, just so we can stay on
Well,
top of what they're,
Well, I
You'll
think
get
that's,
probably hundreds and thousands of pages of
Bonnie
paper.
Brady,
know,
Bonnie
I
has a
know.
lot of that.
yeah,
Well, I think we'll have a better idea of that after Wednesday's
okay.
meeting. We'll report back at the next trustee meeting.
Okay, committee reports. Acabonic, Hog Creek, D. Franny, 107 Gerard Drive, will submit as-built survey, letter sent.
Yep, no response
Ah,
yet.
Drew Bennett. How are you?
Does he
Do you want to talk to us about this at all? Rose can?
No, this
No,
is-
that's not Rose can.
Is there anything special he wants to talk about?
well,
Franny,
this rose can on here too, if you wanna,
yeah.
maybe we could do both of them.
Okay.
Good evening. Thanks for sending me the agenda Friday before. It's very helpful to know that you're on the agenda, so I appreciate that. Roskin Bray is Bluff Restoration, the sand material that was done with a permit issued by various agencies, including this board. They want to be able to do the plantings for the bluff. And I believe we were informed that the trustee permit expired, so we're just here for an extension or renewal, whatever it is you do, to allow us to finish the plantings.
How long has that been?
I think it expired in March.
No, we gave you an extension on that.
3 days,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
3
let's-
days?
And they still didn't get it done.
No, they did, they got the sand in.
The sand, right,
Yeah, but not the plantings.
right.
No.
So
Right.
that, we're here,
Yeah.
that's what that's about, so. Any questions about that? Hopefully that's.
You may ask.
All right. I know that, some emails went back and forth between your office and Laurie today. We need the proper verification form filled out for the application.
Okay,
One signed by the homeowner,
okay,
okay? I also noticed that, which I hadn't picked up on in the prior application, but you checked yes when we asked if there's an encumbrance on the property. So I'm wondering if you can
yeah, I don't believe
tell
that's
us
correct.
what that is. You think that's incorrect?
I believe that's incorrect.
Incorrect, okay. If that's the case, then we don't, but if there is, I would like to know what that is.
I'll check with Mr. Braid in the first thing in the morning, and I'll let Lori know.
Okay. And then the other thing I'm just concerned about is that the 2006 permit wasn't acted on because of the pipe and plovers in the area. So they were trying to get the project done this year prior to the plovers, but we're gonna need to find out whether there's any plovers out on the beach now. I mean, we can give you a permit, but you may be in the same position.
Yeah, but I think that's
Can't.
just a matter of wording the permit, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also noticed that the plans that were provided with your application also include removal of piles from an old bulkhead. But the description on the, for what we're looking at now for planting does not include anything other than planting, so.
Right, so the first part of the heavy part of the scope of work was completed, okay? Then the owner went out to hire someone to do the planting, took some time, and then we came back. Actually, there was a discussion whether we wanted to use jute mat on the face of the bluff.
Right.
And it was decided that that wasn't necessary considering the slope, so we wanted to subtract it. My concern was,
I'm going to recuse myself from any voting on this because
I
the
would
people
hope
have been
so.
talking. Yes, the people have been talking to me. But they wanted to add the jute matting back in, was my last conversation with
Okay.
them. If that's current, it may not be.
I hadn't heard that, but I have had weekly conversations with Mr. Bray over the last 3 weeks. And we spoke to Brian Frank and we spoke to the DEC, and they said that type of change was inconsequential. We didn't need to modify our permits. We went back to the trustees just to make sure that we were being totally transparent. The trustees said, oh, wait a minute, the permit is expired. So we're just trying to finish the last, whatever, 10, 15% of the
How
project.
much time do you need, Drew, to complete it?
Depends on the birds.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so
Given a
2 weeks, 3 weeks,
non-bird issue,
yeah,
a couple of weeks.
2 or
Yeah.
3 weeks.
by the time. we-
Okay, so, but the project plan, the first portion that was to place the fill, were pilings from an old bulkhead removed at that time?
I don't know, I wasn't there for that.
Okay, so the project plan that includes removal of pilings now, should not be there at all?
Diane, forgive me.
Okay,
Have a project. The project, for the most part, was implemented. There was a little bit of delay to finish the project, which was to put the polish on the project, which was to do the vegetation. We touched the base, we want to do a minor modification to the jute, no jute thing, right? So we touched base with the Town Planning Department, the New York DEC, and the trustees. The first two agencies said, no problem. The trustees said, oh, wait a minute, your permit is expired, you need to renew the permit. So,
yes, I got all that. The
right, so
point
we
is,
didn't
Right.
we didn't redo the plans, we just said, can we extend the permit? Whatever you'd like to do, extend it, renew it, whatever.
right, I'm just saying that if somebody goes back and looks in this in the future, that project description on your plan is attached to blah, 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 application permit.
It was
and
attached to the
includes-
first one. It was attached to the first. It was attached to the original application. We didn't change the map.
I think the date was changed when I looked in the file, but,
Well, maybe it was.
okay.
It probably
So
was
anyway,
changed.
so
Diane,
anyway,
just to-
the-
just to
no
be clear.
no piles have been touched or are going to be touched at this time, or that you know of.
I think they were removing part of the old bulkhead as part of this. There's an old piece of wooden bulkhead that was at the toe of the bluff that was being removed. Do I know for a fact whether it was removed? No, but I can find out.
So it may have been done prior to
Right,
your.
as I said in the first part of this, the heavy part of this was done already. We got to the end, the very small fraction that remained is focused on the plantings. The change in the date probably has something to do with a note regarding jute matting, no jute matting.
Okay. Well, the way the verbiage was written with the jute matting for the project last year, I had no problem with. If he wanted to remove it this year, I didn't have any problem with that either. So whichever description regarding the jute matting and the planting
Yeah.
that was in the, is fine.
Okay.
We would say I just want to clarify that there's no pilings being dealt with here, dug out or anything. Okay?
Well, I think that was part of the original permit, Diane, was the,
Not in the description, not that I could recall in the description of the permit. The permit was to place, fill,
okay.
and plant.
Well, you know what? I didn't actually come here tonight to
No.
discuss that, so I'm not totally
Right.
prepared for it. I don't have the file with me.
Yeah, that's
But I'll
okay.
certainly get back to you and Lori in the morning. Okay?
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I'd like to let them go forward. I mean, whether the
Sure.
pilings had been replaced in the past, if they were done in the past and we missed it, it's done. But if they're not gonna be doing it going forward, then we've just recognized it's on the plan, but it's not being done, so we're done, let it go. It's just the plan.
And I'll be clear,
Yeah.
when I get to pull the file first thing in the morning, I will be clear and I'll communicate with Lori and yourself.
All right.
Do we need to have a motion for the extension
No, this is a new permit.
of 2 weeks?
The other one expired. Yeah, so if we issue a permit tonight, it's a new permit, he's got a year to do it.
Okay.
So if the plovers, we say, if there are plovers in the area and he has to wait, as
That's
soon as the
fine.
birds are fledged, you can get the planting done.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
When
Yeah.
did the prior permit expire?
Usually they're a year.
When did it?
When was that? I don't know what the
I
date.
think it was March 26th or 28th
Yeah,
or something like that.
28th, and then we gave him 3 more days, and then,
Of this year.
Yeah.
Did you apply for the permit extension before the permit expired?
No, we didn't realize that it expired.
Well, no, we gave an extension. An extension was given by this board.
Yes.
He extended for
wasn't.
3 days. The fill work was done in that time period,
Yes.
and then the permit ran out.
All right, you have the discretion, you can do it as an extension, or you can do it as a new permit. Personally, I think it would make more sense to do an extension, because it makes it clear that it relates to a permit you already issued, otherwise you bifurcated the entire thing.
Have we made exceptions, or have we gone this route in the past?
I
where we've
think the last
extended-
time I suggested we amend the yearly thing, we had a discussion going the other way.
Right.
Like, don't do that, it's a change. So I don't know.
I'm in-
I
yeah.
don't know, it's,
I mean,
Well, in other words,
yeah.
it's part of a project that's already been
But this-
formally implemented.
He
So you issue
submitted
a
a-
new permit, it's not really clear what happened in
No,
the first
I think he
project.
submitted, didn't you submit a new application?
This is a new
Drew,
application.
with the fee and everything?
You know,
Yes.
that's because
Yeah.
that was the direction that
Yeah.
we got. The
Yes.
owner's
Okay.
response
Yeah,
was,
so
can't we
this
just
is a
extend it?
new permit.
Well, we didn't ask for it, that was the direction we got, so.
Right.
We're just trying to finish it.
Yep.
You know, and I understand the bird part, so if you could make it long enough so that it included the fall, early fall planting season,
Right.
just
We'll
in
have a
case.
year.
Right.
Or 6 months.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
That would be more than enough time.
So in light of the fact that they sent in the monies and the application for a new permit, I would make a motion that we grant them the new permit, and they will get the work done.
And we should reference the old permit in
All right,
this.
I'll second,
Right.
I'll second that.
No, it's okay.
We want them to plant it, they did the filling, we want them to plant the
The,
hill.
the planting as per the prior permit issued, unless they notify us
So
they're
you're gonna do
gonna
an
change
extension,
it.
is that what I heard? Is it, you're gonna do an extension for 6
No,
months?
I think we should just
New permit.
do.
No, new
only
permit.
permit.
Yeah.
6 months, okay,
Have a year to complete it.
okay.
Lori, let me see that, if you do it. If you do, you show me a draft and I'll look at it.
It will be the same,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the new
Yeah.
permit can,
yeah,
But you're gonna reference the old, because it's a
Yeah.
new permit,
Mhm.
new approvals.
yeah.
and then, I would just condition that upon applicants seeking advice from natural resources regarding plovers in the area before you proceed. And, also, I would like, as per the old permit, some
The old
photographs.
permit, the one that expired.
The one that's
okay.
expired. I would like some photographs of that embankment that Phil placed prior to the planting. And then when this permit is done, we can get photos with the planting in place, so we'll be able to see how that all worked. We'll have that for the file.
That makes a good file.
And
yeah.
I'm willing to forego the as-built survey until your planting is done.
You good with that?
So we have a motion on the floor to
In a second.
Okay.
accept it. Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Well, let me just clarify now. Are we gonna have a revised permit? We're not gonna vote on that? I mean, Lori, you're gonna
It's
do it.
voted on.
So you're
Yeah,
just gonna make up a
It's a
permit
new permit, and it's gonna be a year
from today or from,
from today.
all right.
Yeah.
And it
Let
will,
me see it then, so,
And you
and it will
abstain, right?
reflect
I'm
the
abstaining.
original.
okay.
Yeah, Jim abstained
application.
from the vote.
Yeah, Jim abstained.
Okay. Good.
All right.
All right, thank you.
While Drew's up here, can we do,
Wheel,
what is it?
Walter Wheel, 92 Georgia Close. 92 Georgia Close, Phragmite removal. Unless there's something else on there. Yeah. Well, I did see it, I was looking at something.
Yeah, it's there.
It's here, so,
It's
Got
under
Yeah.
the.
Under Georgia
Right,
Pond
Phragmite
Committee.
control.
I got it.
Yep.
all right, here we go.
Modifications to
Yeah.
be made to plans?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, it's C.
So, I believe this is a project, 92 Georgia Close for Phragmite removal via excavation. I believe it's been discussed by the trustees once before. And we're in the process of filing permits with the New York State DEC in the village. So, if you have any questions at this point in time, I'll be happy to answer them.
So you're cutting and excavating in this project?
There'll be a cut first, and then there'll be an excavation removal. It's gonna be by excavation, and then there'll be backfill, and there'll be revegetation.
And is the excavation proposed for this year, or will that be a,
Ideally, it would be fall at this point in time, because we still have a ways to go with the DEC and the village.
case, the owner has pretty easy access to get to the pond. They've got easy access to their existing property. There are some existing trees on the property, some tupelos, that I think it's noted on their plans that any removal would be hand removal in those areas.
That's correct.
When we met on site, it was noted there is some native vegetation. There are some cattails on the site. There's some other shoreline vegetation, which the intention is for that material to stay, try and work around it. They do have a set of plans which has a pretty extensive shoreline planting. What I did think was absent, and Drew's associate and I discussed it, was basically trying to provide some woody buffer in the way of shrubs, which they're in the process of amending their plans now. And Drew, or Rick, or Drew, I'm sorry, I always get you guys, we had talked about that pool equipment that's fairly close to the wetland edge, about rerouting the backwash on that and putting the dry well farther from the wetland.
Yeah, we did discuss that. I have to look into where the dry well is. I'll have to get back to you on where that actually occurs. It does not go into the pond, I know, but I'll have to find out exactly where the dry well is located.
Drew, in that you're proposing, this is a mechanical excavation?
Yes.
How do you propose to flag or delineate the native vegetation like cattails so it isn't removed accidentally with the Phragmites?
So the owner has a gentleman named Dr. Ray Henkel, who's I don't want to get his title incorrect, but he's a wildlife ecologist, botanist type of person who's a PhD, works for ACOM in New Jersey. And he's been consulting, personal friends and consulting on this particular project. So he'll be there for that type of activity. The wetland line has been delineated by the village at this point in time. That's one of the things we're waiting for to get to the village. So there'll be, I can identify them, but there'll be a true expert on site guiding the excavation, as well as the revegetation, as well as the monitoring and the success of the revegetation, which we've proposed to the DEC. So it's quite possible that we'll have a slightly revised set of plans shortly that we'll want to keep you in the loop on, in terms of once we get feedback from the other two agencies, get everybody in sync, and then make sure everybody is looking at the same information. So this gentleman.
So this gentleman will be actually delineating these areas, or?
It's not,
is it possible to even do that?
Rick, it's not so much delineating areas. It's literally a case, there's some patches of cattail that are literally a quarter of the size of this table. It's really going to be flagging them off, defining them, and excavating around them. This is going to be probably, in all likelihood, a fairly surgical use of equipment to remove this Phragmites. And there's going to be patches that they're literally going to have to sort of hand remove the Phragmites around the cattails and stuff. It's not a huge area. I think it's going to be something. I think this could be a good project.
I think direct supervision is the way to go, because some of the, like Jim suggested, some of the areas are relatively small, so it really needs direct supervision.
I had a quick question, Drew, with regards to the excavation material / muck. Does that have a special destination?
So the muck at this particular site is actually pretty limited. It's we've taken some sediment samples, and like 98% of it is sand. Very little muck at all, and that's one of the reasons that we're able to propose, real excavation. So right now, the biomass will be landfilled. That's the proposal. We're kind of working through that with the DEC.
Yeah, if you recall, this is an application that came to us actually 2 months ago. And with it, there was an extensive sort of analysis of particle size, which at the end of the day, what that said is it's mostly sand.
Okay, good.
Right.
This is a pretty clean, easy excavation.
Yeah.
And when are you planning to start?
As I mentioned, ideally, we'd like to be able to do it at low pond stage, and I think the soonest that we'd be able to do it would be the fall of this year. We'd like to be able to do it the fall this year. We're optimistic, but when the pond's
no
out.
cutting or excavation until the fall?
Correct. Correct. So,
Jim, do you think, are we waiting on anything else, Jim? for
Well,
this
I
one?
think probably it doesn't make sense to have a vote on this tonight. I think what does make sense, they're just applying to the DEC now. I think maybe when we get the modifications on the plans, we're gonna be at a stage that we could perhaps vote on this.
yeah, there's a point in the process where you get all three agencies weigh in, you get everybody's input in, and you have one plan. So once we get to that stage, we will come back and give you an upset. I don't imagine that there'll be major changes, but I'm sure there'll be some refinement to the plant species and what we're gonna do exactly with the biomass and that kind of stuff. But-
It sounds like an interesting project.
And your comment about the supervision is well taken, and I'll make sure that that's articulated in the future plan.
And this is gonna result in a native vegetated buffer.
Yeah, and the owner's actually been a very good steward of the shoreline to date, and is not doing it to improve his view. He's actually has a relatively high residence. He's is
That
doing it for
sounds like a good
conservation
project.
reasons, and that's literally,
Great.
that's
Nice.
really what he's about, so.
And you'll be handworking and stuff like,
Where we
just
need to.
really tight, yeah.
Where we need to, that's right.
Sounds like they're gonna be trying to take good care of this.
Yeah, that's the goal, certainly.
Well, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Drew.
nice evening.
You too.
All right, okay, the Kayak Racks, the latest on that is the town board is asking for a presentation before agreeing to it. And
Is it on trustee property?
No.
it's debatable.
Then let them do it. Really.
Or we move it to trustee
That would
property
be
and just
fine.
do it.
I mean, you know, this is ridiculous. We're not starting the Shoreline power plant here.
I agree. How many people we have on the waiting list?
About 40.
Is there sufficient,
there to present, I mean, it's a kayak.
Right.
Okay, it's
we haven't been.
bordering on nature preserve property.
Okay, all right, that's the reason.
They're willing to build the racks for us. We can manage and do the permits.
Francis, do you know when the next opportunity to get before him would be?
I believe Zachary and Andy were, or Scott, Zachary and Scott, I'm not sure if they want us there or not, but possibly.
Is that Andy
Maybe
Gates?
Thursday.
Yeah,
This Thursday.
Natural resources, he knows.
well,
where it is.
it's land,
Yeah, well, yeah.
land management.
I was down there with Andy and we discussed the whole thing.
No, I mean, but he knows where, you know, to be on trustee part of the property as opposed to the wetlands or wherever.
Exactly where this is that you come to the end of Gerard Drive, there's the beach access on the right. And there's this area to the right as you enter the beach. That whole section back there is nature preserve. So at the base of that, it's grasses, and people have been storing their kayaks there. So they would like to do the racks there. It's out of the way of any vehicles coming on the beach. The alternative would be for us to go to the left where it's definitely ours, and that could possibly
traffic.
impede some of the traffic.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want.
So this would be the best way to go down there?
But if it's not on our property,
Well,
why
hey-
would we even be involved in it?
Well, we're involved in the sense
Because
that
we've done it.
we're the ones that are issuing the permits for the kayak racks.
Right.
Or for the kayak for the use of the racks.
Storage permit.
Okay, this is a nice opportunity for our board and Nature Preserve Committee to kind of work together. They're doing the lion's share of the work here, okay? They're building the racks, they're installing them.
We should probably
It's really a
reimburse the
win-win
cost.
for us, and I'll find out
Right,
at
we
this
just gotta
month's meeting whether
get
they,
the work
whether they
notes.
want us or feel that they need us to attend.
We could give them a.
Fair enough.
It's
We've had a
all
really
right.
good success with.
I mean, my
Right.
sense is, we know what we're doing. I just don't feel that we need the town board to step in.
Yeah,
Well,
Well-
the town board isn't, they just want to make sure the public is
covering their bases. It's a nature
aware of
preserve.
what we're doing.
Yeah, there's a process that you kind of have to go
All right.
through here, and it's not that bad.
I don't expect it to be a problem.
Okay.
The no spray thing we discussed earlier. Torrendale, 285 Kings Point Road. bulkhead repair, submitted as-built and photos. We need an inspection report.
Okay. Let me see. I could have swore I looked at that the other day. Oh, you know what? I think
There's some pictures here.
I was looking, you know what, I couldn't find that file. That's what it was. Couldn't find it, Lori. Yeah,
You may have an extra piece of paper there.
oh, okay. Wait a minute, though, these do look familiar. Yeah, there's, something about this is looking familiar to me, and I don't know why I don't have it in here. Well, let me take a look at that with Tyler between now and the next meeting.
Okay.
That is kind of weird. Okay.
Which one is this?
285 Kings Point Road. All right, beaches. Adopt a beach, Tyler's not here, so we'll table that. ZBA public hearing notice for Leon Gelfond.
Yeah, this is.
Inspection report.
Hey, guys, this is something, this was a property that put an application in way, way, way back for pretty extensive change on the property. They then pulled it back and submitted again. The hearing was ages ago. The ZBA determination is literally imminent to be written. In looking at the application, honestly, guys, I don't think there's anything about it that really pertains to us. They're pulling the house farther back from where it is now. It's really a non-issue for us.
Right. See, but I would say they still require variances for their wetland setbacks, for the residents and the septic and the pyramid rule. So, I mean, they're still building a quite substantial house on that lot.
Yeah, but it's kind of old. The actually, the what do you call it? The comment period expired ages ago.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And actually, the activity is benign compared to what was there. And they're, like I said, everything's getting pulled back. So it's really a non-issue for us. Same situation occurs for this V. Phillips on 72 Shore Road. Again, it doesn't appear that we have any interest in this at all.
I just have to comment that when you read the public notice,
I
they want to
know-
clear 600 square feet of beach vegetation.
Yes, okay, and anything along Shore Road is beach vegetation, and all this is landward of the dune crest, Diane.
But they need a variance from their dune crest setbacks. So,
Everything down there needs a variance for the dune crest setbacks.
okay. So does that mean everything has to be approved?
No,
Okay.
but I don't, but quite frankly, I don't think it's essentially out of our sphere of influence.
It
or
is,
interest.
we're adjacent property owners, that's
We
all.
are, and we were noticed, and
Yep.
we checked it out, and I
Yep.
don't know that we need to weigh in on it.
Is this one already been held,
It's
though?
already been
Yeah.
had, and you know what happened on this?
Again,
I
unfortunate.
did some investigation on this. We were not checked to be noticed about this, primarily because of the nature of the activity. The planner didn't feel.
Oh, and
that-
that is a problem.
That is
Planner
a
is
problem,
not
hey
there,
Diane, that
yeah.
is a problem. I had a very long conversation with the secretary in the office today about that.
Okay.
But this was
Okay.
not uncommon.
Where is the
Prior.
property? Jim?
Prior.
72
Yeah.
Shore Road.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
on,
We
Which
argued
shore
that.
road are we talking
Yeah.
about?
which, the ocean side, Namagansett.
Out of Nappy, Montauk on Sea?
Yeah.
I would say it's within the last year that they've been notifying us, both the village.
Okay.
And
I
the
mean, this
town.
one, honestly, guys,
Well, I just wanted, here's the rules in the town, that's why I'm just checking it. The rule in town is very simple. The town requires that the property owner notify an adjoining property owner according to what's on the tax map. So it's completely on the tax map. If the tax map shows trustee ownership and we adjoin, the trustees adjoin.
We should have been
Then they notify. Now, does this, what you said, what street number?
72 Shore Road, tax map number,
I don't have a tax.
300, 131, 08,
Well, give me the street number again.
72 Shore Road.
And this is east of Atlantic?
It should be.
72 Shore Road. So let's see what the tax map says in the adjoining.
Subdivision's called Montauk on the Sea.
Yeah, it's, I think 90 is.
I mean, I'm going on the GIS. I don't know that it's not showing you as the adjoining owner, but I don't really know for sure if this is right. It's not the real tax map, it's the GIS thing, so.
But we had even tried to draft, there's a draft to amend the verbiage of the town's application so that it would almost reflect what's written in the beaches code as areas that are within trustee jurisdiction, properties adjacent to the ponds, beaches, harbor, blah, blah, so that we could avoid this problem with the tax map book, and sometimes we're not noticed as adjacent property owners. That happened in 3 Mile Harbor, waterways are
It
not,
happened in 3 Mile.
so somewhere.
It comes up on the beaches, because sometimes, as you know, sometimes the beach trustees
Yeah.
are not shown as owning the beaches, sometimes they are. On the harbors, the trustees are always shown as the bottom line owner of the harbors. So if you have harborfront property, trustees should be notified. The tax map would dictate that.
It should.
But then again, the issue is still,
Yeah.
when you get noticed, the notice that they're sending you
Is not
is 10 days prior to
timely.
the public hearing.
Yes.
You're never going to get to discuss it before the hearing's held.
No.
So,
Nope.
you need this sort of back channel kind of stuff going on.
Yep. Okay,
Move on?
move on.
Okay.
Yep.
Education, we got an invitation to the East Hampton High School guidance for the local scholarship representatives' 6th annual appreciation reception, featuring art, music, hors d'oeuvres by our East Hampton High School students, Thursday, June 1st at 5:30, prior to the awards ceremony.
So what we need to do also is determine who our recipient is going to be. So have we had enough people take a look at the applications and
For the scholarship?
for the
Yeah, I looked
scholarship?
at 'em.
and,
What's the deadline?
I voted.
When do you have to submit it?
June 1st is this.
It's the, that's when they're
This.
doing it.
Oh,
So
okay.
they want to know prior to that so they can get all their paperwork in order. So
Mm-hmm.
it's soon. They want to know.
Well, are other trustees outside of the committee voting on?
Allowed to look, yeah.
Yeah,
you can,
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Can we have until the end of this
Yep.
week?
Just
Do you want
come
to?
up with a deadline.
Put a deadline on it, put a
Yeah,
hard deadline.
on, that's it.
Next Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we can then just say that by consensus of those trustees who are weighing in on it, we will notify the high school. We don't need to bring it back to the public.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So maybe a couple
Okay.
of us can go next Monday and
Okay.
select our
Yep,
winner.
all right. And I had sent off to some of the education committee the processes for voting. Do I need, I'll just get that to Lori, so we don't have to go over it now.
That should be
Okay.
fine.
If you can just leave a copy of it with the,
How many applications are there?
11, I think?
Was there that many?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. Now we're down to Georgia, Phragmite control applications from Bruce Horwith. He's not here, so I guess we're not,
No, I did run into Brian Frank, and we talked a little bit about One Association Road. and I
Actually
think
met
he's-
with him today on that.
Okay, yeah, he said he was ready to submit his comments on that one.
Yes, he has, and we should have him literally within the next day or so.
Excellent.
Perella, I thought I saw a flurry of emails.
Yeah,
on that.
there's, Brian and I had met with the applicant's contractor, and this is the plan that we got.
You understand this?
That coconut line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that's unfortunate here is, when you submit for an application, I would really hope that there's a little more definition, exactly how many, how much cocoa log are you doing? What sort of spacing you're doing on your staking? And we do have a plant list here with the attached documents, which lists the plants. There's no quantities or sizes listed there.
Who submitted this?
This was submitted by the applicant's contractor.
I do believe the original application I looked at, these logs were placed seaward of the mean high water mark or property line, or, so they were definitely, should be looked at.
Well, they were on the shoreline. They're well within our review. And what there's a situation there where there's some shoreline that has sort of escaped into the pond, so to speak, where the water is sort of built behind it. And I didn't have a problem personally if they kind of encapsulated those areas. They end up playing out as little islands. It's very natural, it's very normal. They provide nice nesting sites for some of the waterfowl. It's not really described here. It's a little hard to, I personally don't have a problem with this project. I am struggling with the application here a little bit, just because it doesn't read out.
What we discussed with the
Well,
applicant, yeah.
it unfortunately doesn't present as something that you can, that
Do we know what
anybody.
any of this is? What
Does it
does this
say how long?
Exactly.
No,
It's
You failed to
really,
put that in there, we have to tell, I guess we should give them a call.
What's that?
We should
Bounce
probably just give them a call and ask them to furnish us with some more detailed info.
well, I mean, this was the more, unfortunately, this was a second
Yeah, we should show 'em.
iteration. And I was actually
do
hoping to
better
get,
than
actually hoping to get something that, if a neighbor comes in and questions this, that we're issuing permits that are based on real plans.
It's like a child's drawing.
Yeah, we need a
Yeah, that's-
professional
yeah.
drawing, I think.
Is that it?
Could
That's
you,
it,
could you put it on
unfortunately.
photo or
Not much.
What?
an aerial or something?
Well, I mean, there's,
Something,
yeah,
It has to be more than
Lori
that.
Wilshire was the agent for the applicant. Lori, maybe we can send her a letter and see if we can get something that's.
Sounds like a good
that's-
idea.
That's on a
Yeah.
more professional sort of scale.
Good. I like that.
Okay, and application for W. Wild, didn't we discuss that earlier?
Yes, we did that.
Okay. All right, harbor management.
Okay. I had an opportunity to meet with Kim Shaw and members of the Suffolk County Department of Public Works over at Accabonac Harbor at Louse Point. And it was an interesting meeting. There are applications into the county for dredging work on Accabonac Harbor, Northwest Harbor, and 3 Mile Harbor. And I wasn't aware there was so much activity going on with respect to potential dredging projects.
What were those areas again?
Who submitted them, Rick?
Accabonac, Northwest, and 3 Mile. Kim is our liaison to the county on behalf of the town. And Accabonac, we knew was on the schedule for 2018. I think we're all excited to see that happen. And when I talked to one of the members of the Suffolk County team, asking how far back they would go past the boat ramp, the reply was, as soon as the bottom is not beach sand compliant type material, they're going to stop. So the problem with all of our interior harbors is that the bottom composition changes quite quickly as we get past the inlets and channels. So we may not see as much dredging there as we've been hoping for, which led to a discussion about environmental dredging and how can we start to encourage that type of dredging to take place. And it's a much more difficult standard to meet to get a dredging project undertaken for environmental reasons, but they are now more aware of it. And Kim has undertaken an application in Northwest Harbor to take away some of the shoal that's built up inside of Northwest Harbor, to open up the access along the west side, There used to be a little deeper channel that ran back into the interior of Northwest Harbor. And right now, it's difficult to get a boat back there. So, she's, I think, doing a good job and has a lot of projects on the schedule. I think we can start to weigh in and maybe help in terms of trying to develop a more environmental view to some of these dredging projects, which are right now more navigationally focused. And then 3 Mile, the channel has some maintenance work that needs to be done. There's some shoaling building up in a few spots, and they went out and did some soundings with Dale from the Harbor Patrol, Marine Patrol team. And, it's another project on the burner.
So, excuse me, so let me understand this. Is Kim acting on behalf of the trustees as the lead agency, because we do own the bottom land?
Well, that's where I think we need to develop a little closer relationship with Kim on these projects, because, there was a very detailed discussion going on with Kim and the members of the county team. And these are applications that are out there.
She's got great contacts, she comes from the county, I get it, I like her, but we cannot be left out of the equation here.
Well, I think,
So that's why I'm bringing it, to
Yeah.
attention.
Rick and I had a discussion about this, exactly what you're talking about, Brian, and maybe the approach on this is to invite Kim either to harbor management or to our board meeting to basically lay out what her thoughts have been on this, because I don't know where the disconnect lies.
These permits are about 3 years old. To get the permits close to implementation is a 3 to 4 year process.
Is this
So this is
something
a
that you were
long lead
involved
time.
in,
I'm okay
Diane?
with that, and I
Remember
applaud
that.
her
I
efforts,
think
Yeah.
so,
but,
starting some.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it's a
some of them
long,
had
hard
actually
process
been-
he's been undertaking. for
Napeague and
us, but I would
Accabonac
like
had
to be
been
more
in
aware also.
process even with Larry Penny, but had
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, a lot of them are ongoing.
Yeah.
A lot of the projects,
What was I thinking? I think, Rick, just, when you just said the permit is in its 3rd year now with Kim.
The application.
Application, that's what I want to say. Let's clarify for
Right,
people.
application.
Application takes forever
Yep.
to get that permit, which
Correct.
generally was for 10 years. Now the DEC is backing off and looking at less time, even, 5 or
Yes.
6 years. Yeah.
No, the duration of time it takes to get a permit
Yes.
is longer.
Yeah.
How long it is valid for is
Right.
shorter.
And what
So
we
it's a
had
really
done.
challenging
Could change
Yes,
process.
if you get the
Actually be able to
criteria
implement anything.
for
By the time
the
you get done.
environmental permit
Be applying
from the
for
DEC,
they came,
and there's like 11 criteria of which you need to meet a certain number, which included like, parking, like at Shipyard Lane. If we could have, you gotta be able to park 6 or 8 cars.
trucks.
Yeah, so we were trying to find ways to like, what do we need to do on our upland sides in order to meet that environmental criteria for each waterway? So that's
Right, and that
what
was
we could start
what came up
moving,
with a very
yeah.
preliminary discussion about Hog Creek, is how to make Hog Creek a real public resource. And
Mm-hmm.
is the community there going to embrace such an upgrade? They want dredging resources brought in, but they may not want all of the additional criteria
Right.
that goes along with it. So that's going to be an interesting project. But it was great that the county wanted to go out there and do a site visit, get their hands on it, get their eyes on it. So it's great to see the county out here and, looking to do some work on our waterways. So I'm hoping to, have Kim more involved, as Jim said, meet with her, maybe have her come before one of our
Yeah,
meetings
and
and share
Brian-
information.
yeah. Brian, the way the process works, the county asks towns and trustees and stuff to nominate projects. And then they evaluate them and work on them and stuff like that. But they,
The real thing we need to work on is if and when a permit is in place, and I don't care if the county holds a permit, the DEC holds a permit, Kim holds a permit, the trustees hold a permit, doesn't matter. If we need to rely on the county to come out here and do the dredging, we're sunk. I was gonna say another word, but we need to that now start to focus on, once that permit's in place, how can we implement it?
The resources.
Get it done,
You
more
gotta
than
get
the
the work
10 years
done.
that the county has the funds and money to get out here.
But one of the other issues with the county that you discovered was that they will only do dredging where it's pretty much 100% sand.
Yeah.
If there's any muck involved, they won't go near it.
Right.
So the identification of disposition sites is very important, and they need to be close to the area being dredged, basically close enough where the outflow pipe of the dredge
I think
can reach
we're in good shape in Acabonic right now.
for beach sand
For
compatible.
beach sand compatible, and we're also in good shape because we left that area unused so they can fill it up with sand. They can hit that with one reach.
Right. So I brought up the idea of possibly a barge following the dredge around if they were to go deeper into the harbor, and the response was that it's too costly.
Yeah, it gets,
So
it's,
once,
For them.
for them,
Right,
they don't
they have a
they don't
smaller
have budget.
budget.
That's the response.
Yeah.
so
Which I
this-
understand, but I think we need to start to look at ideas as to how we can.
And I think also understanding
support
that
this effort.
we're not the only town in this position. You know, every East End town, North Shore, South Shore, they are all starving for some attention from the county on their waterways.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's also these small isolated projects, like when Georgia, you know, you have these little hot spots. We really need something that can deal with that, and we need something now. I mean, this stuff is recycling as we speak, you know, it's.
Yeah, and what you're saying too, you know, this is a county-wide issue. I think of head of, you know, where I grew up in St. James, head of the harbor, Nessaquak River, you know, they all have dredging needs from time to time, and the list just goes on and on and
The
on.
the county doesn't have enough, you know, dredging capacity,
Right.
and they don't seem to have any money right now at the moment, so.
No.
So
It's,
we have to figure out how to
We had-
possibly bring private contractors in,
Yep.
and how is it funded?
you know, we basically need funding for the dredging, and whether it's our dredge or whether it's to hire outside contracts, we should get a dedicated fund working with this, you know.
Well, Phil, I was
sum of
hoping,
money.
you know, we could have that conversation at some point, you know, something like maybe 10% of the 20% to go
Yeah.
to dredging, you know, some type of a funding source that's
I mean, when
going
you-
to be
when-
available.
When you're talking about water quality, and you're in an area like we are, where you're completely surrounded by beautiful, clean water, the most effective way of cleaning up our harbors is by, you know, promoting water exchange.
Yeah, but you
And
know,
that's
the
what-
tough thing with that is anytime you're doing that, I think if we can marry this dredging to the agenda of cleaning up the
Cleaning up-
nitrogen
yeah,
loads,
and the-
I think you might be able to get some interaction, because you know what happens is when you're dealing with just, well, you know, we've got clean water, well, we're gonna dredge it, and we're gonna get the water exchange, and it's gonna clean up the problem. All we're treating at that point is a symptom. We haven't touched the problem, and I think what we've gotta be able to do is demonstrate how the dredging is just one component of the bigger plan. We're dealing with that right now with Georgica Pond as part of that management plan is very much what
Well, the stuff, here.
what a good part of that plan is, okay,
But the stuff that the county is calling non-compatible, you know, beach sands and stuff like that, is also exactly the stuff where the nitrogen and the phosphorus
yes,
and all that stuff
exactly,
is there.
exactly,
And
but I
that's
think.
the stuff we have to remove from
But
environmental.
I think what this is gonna be is we're gonna have to do some real missionary work with our town board in how these monies are allocated
Yeah.
and how, you know, maybe we can get on track with that. And I think some of this is gonna involve the research work that Gobler has done. Some of it's gonna involve, you know, defining where the county is ending the scope of their activities and why and where we need to pick up the ball. And I think the first step in that, I really think, is developing a more open communication with our liaison, because I think there's a key to a lot of the access to
Well,
the board and stuff is
That dredge
with
the
that.
gentleman's bringing down to Georgia Capone, that's almost like an ideal solution for some of these
It
hot
may
spots.
be, it
you
may
know?
be, we don't, you know.
You know, I mean, it
we don't
looks very
really know.
promising.
Okay, great. Then, you know, this Wednesday, we are having one of our Harbor Management Committee meetings. We do have members from the community that wanted to discuss the Deepwater Wind Farm project, so that'll be a main agenda item.
That's at 5?
5 o'clock this Wednesday at the trustee office. and we will report back to the board on various inputs from the community. And I do have something not related to harbor management. We've had John from Hampton's Web Design develop a new website. It was circulated with the Records Committee and got some feedback, put those changes in place, and then I distributed a link to the website to the entire board. And I think the site is ready to go. It's probably like a 2-week to 30-day implementation timeframe to get some of the latest agendas, minutes, videos in place. And then John has some technical work to do to repoint the old website or the new website where the old website was. So I'd like to get that process started. And I don't know if everyone's had a chance to review the site, but I feel it's ready to go, and I would like to see us start to implement the new site, if no one has an objective to that.
Anyone have any comments on it?
No objection.
Sounds like a plan.
I'd like to make a motion to start the implementation process for the
That's the way it needs to go. I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Nat Peak Lazy Point launching ramp.
There's really nothing happening on that right now. The last meeting we had was with some of the baymen, and the reality that the launching ramp is truly not the issue. It's the channel itself, and I think we really need to, take a more comprehensive look at the problem here.
Do we want to reach out to Savick and Murray and ask them to take a timeout, or?
I'm gonna talk to Jeff, and speak to him about this, because personally, I don't know how this project was driven, okay? It was dropped to this board, via Pat and the town board, and I honestly don't know what drove it. We were just sent out to design a new launching ramp, and,
There was a verbal agreement that if we do the permitting and the design, that the town board would pay for the construction.
yeah. The big issue, Francis, though, that we've heard back and from multiple sources, is you can replace that launching ramp. You haven't solved the problem. It's still gonna be a lousy site. And quite honestly, when you actually get in there and look at the launching ramp, it's not in bad shape. And that's the comments that have been made by some. Why are you wasting the taxpayers' money on this? What you really should be doing is dredging this area in the right place and properly.
It's been dredged in two different spots. I have a long association with the history of that thing.
Okay.
And it's always been the same thing.
And we run the risk.
It's the location.
We run the risk of further erosion too, if
Yeah.
we add another structure there or modify the structure in any
Yeah.
significant capacity, we could further erode that shoreline to the
So
to
maybe,
the
Bill,
west.
if you've
Yeah,
been
let's see,
involved in
I-
that,
I was
I'd love
involved.
to get,
I put a temporary ramp in there after Hurricane
yeah.
Bob, I guess it was.
But the discussion that we've had is and it's been several people have said it, the channel's in the wrong spot. We need to move it where it wants to be and stop trying to make it in a spot that it doesn't belong. It's aggravating the erosion. It creates an unsafe situation to launch a boat
They
in
want
that
it further offshore,
circumstance.
right?
They want it farther offshore.
Yeah, which would
Did any of that come from Jeff?
None, because you know what? What the problem we have here is, we didn't ask Jeff
Right,
about
we hired him
dredging.
to do it.
We hired him to
We told him
design a
we
launching
told him,
ramp,
draw us a
okay?
launching ramp.
We're being given exactly what we're asking for. We did have at our last meeting, we did have a discussion about the potential impact that a new launching ramp with these cheek walls would have on the distribution of sand on either side of it. And I think there was some groundwork done on investigating that. But I think at this point here, I think would really be good to take a step back, get a better idea on the whole issue. Because if we're gonna spend, and we had a approximate budget of $300,000+, that money might be better spent on dredging than than
Yeah.
actually pouring concrete and replacing
Has
a ramp.
anybody, have we ever seriously looked into like a floating dock or something there?
Well, the problem is, what are you gonna put a friggin' floating dock in? It's gonna be like whitewater rafting.
You gotta pick it. I mean, it's.
It really-
It's, no,
it
it's-
really-
it's
it's
the
just-
angle, it's the angle the water's hitting it at, it's where it is.
Well,
It's-
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
literally, the
Yeah.
water
It's
flumes
fast.
But would it,
right past
but
the
would it
front of
make
that.
sense to have something there to stabilize the boat that you launched and tied to?
Well, that was the deal that Savick and Murray were promoting. All of their schemes promoted these basically sheet pile cheek walls, which were gonna provide a lee for you to launch
Yeah,
the boat in. The only problem is, and all of the baymen that looked at it, they said, these things are going to have a real and measurable impact on the
shoreline.
on the distribution of sand in this area, and they were cautioning it that what you don't wanna do is you don't wanna do this where it aggravates the erosion on one side of this ramp or the other. And the suggestions that were made were put the channel back out farther where it
Take the
belongs.
sand from it and
in
put it
all
on the
likely-
beach.
Yes, put the sand on the beach, and in all likelihood, instead of losing sand, which has been the case down there, we'd start gaining sand. And you would actually then have a natural lee that you'd be launching your boat in. And we really probably, in all likelihood, would not require any modifications to the existing launching ramp, because the very problem that you're trying to address with these cheek walls wouldn't exist anymore.
That's how most boat ramps are located, in a calm
Yeah.
water body. So it would be a
So-
natural setting for it.
If we can take a step back and head in that direction, I think we really need to take a breath.
And take it off the agenda until we are ready
Yeah,
to revisit it.
Perhaps, yes.
Would it
Okay,
make
thank
sense to have, I don't know what they would be called, hydrologists maybe? or
That's what
someone
we
to
had
help
actually,
Look at it?
that's what we had with the last meeting we had with Jeff
To
Pantangelo.
get a hydrologist.
That's what he was looking into, was having somebody weigh in on this. And I think at this point, we take a step back on the launching ramp design. We look at the comprehensive issues of the channel and how it's placed and how it relates to the launching ramp, and look at a little different bigger picture, and see if we can come up with something that, one, ideally addresses the launching ramp, but what it also we may be able to address is that bar that blocks the water into Napeak Harbor.
Around the backside.
now.
Yeah. It'd help a lot, help the water exchange.
That's the goal.
It's a
out
win-win
there.
solution.
One's a good.
I'm gonna have my boats, and I'm very excited.
You got your boat in the water?
They've been working on this boat for years. I
Oh.
got this 1951 little
Oh,
motor launch. It's getting restored. You can help me
help you varnish it?
run it up on the rocks.
All right, let's move on. Pump out boats. Apply for a grant?
Mr. Greco.
Mr. Greco?
Greco, I
Oh,
was
okay, I'm
hoping
sorry.
you'd skip that, because I did, you know,
We can.
I was actually down there today,
Uh-huh.
and I forgot to look at it.
Ooh. Okay, we'll table it.
Yep.
Pump out boats. Are we applying for a grant? Yes.
I think we should.
Yeah, I think so also.
Yeah.
I had spoken a while back with the gentleman from, I think, Rhode Island, who built our last one. Just to give you an idea, it's roughly, fully fitted, about $90,000. So,
Are there still grants available from the same?
I think that, yeah, that EFC.
Right.
Yeah.
Does the town
Environmental
have a- the town have a
facilities, yeah.
grant analysis?
It's online.
Grant person?
Say what?
I was wondering, the town has somebody that just does grants, I think.
I
Grant
thought-
Might even
writers.
be
I thought-
part of-
I thought we had already agreed to hire an additional
Yeah.
part-time person.
We voted on it.
We didn't? I thought we had.
Did we vote on it, Lori?
Vote on what?
Hiring a part-time pump out?
No.
I know we discussed it.
We did
No, you
talk
didn't
about
vote
it. I
on
don't think we
I
actually
was
voted.
talking to Sid, they kind of seem like the operators now kind of like the idea of maybe having somebody for, you know, and one more guy, even with the two boats, keep,
somebody gets sick or.
you know, the
Days off.
business.
Well, the days off, that's one.
Cover the days off.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed they
So-
took one boat away. Was that earlier today, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, where was that going?
Where did they take it, VFW for cleaning?
Yeah, maybe so, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, then we would put an ad, I guess, in the paper, looking for part-time skipper for the poop boat.
Okay.
I mean, how do we do that? Is that what we do?
How'd we hire these guys? Did we run an ad?
I don't remember.
Well,
when
do we
it broke
have to
through?
run an ad?
We should,
I don't think so, and,
Can we like
no, you don't have to
talk to
run
them?
that.
Maybe they have someone in mind that they can
Sure.
work with?
It would be the
Yes.
first person
Yes,
I would
it's-
check with.
There might be
Okay.
somebody, yeah.
All the guys that come walking up to
So if
them
they
on
have
the street and
someone
go,
they'd
wow, I wonder
recommend,
what
we
the hell
could
you
bring
Yeah,
go.
that- I love
interview
that.
them and.
We'll
yeah.
start there.
Yeah, okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
better yet, yeah.
okay.
Okay. 3 Mile Harbor Marina we did. Administrative. Came into the bills. Optimum, $165.56. Staples, $40.86, plus $80.57 for a total of $121.43. GEI Consultants, $211.20 for the Georgia Pond permit. And Anthony Tohill, Seaview, $1,294.15. Do I have a motion?
Motion to pay the bills.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Uh-huh.
Okay, minutes, January 9th and January 30th.
I've looked at the minutes, and I've also looked at the changes that Diane submitted to the minutes, and I'm okay with the minutes with the changes that Diane submitted.
Motion.
Mm-hmm.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, financial report for the month ended April 30th, 2017.
I had an opportunity to go through it. I know we just got it tonight, but it all seems to be in order. Nothing jumps out, so I would make a motion if there's no discussion to accept.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Norrocky Smith CPA's arrangement letter, RE audit for fiscal year ended December 31st. Was there
Their
a
comment
date?
this week.
Okay.
I just put on the record that I'm opposed to these guys doing any more audits for us.
Aren't we supposed to get it from the town?
It is from the town.
Yeah. Only because they want to audit those monies that we receive from the town, so why are they coming into our office and looking at our monies that aren't part of the town? They are separate. Anyway, I
Well,
tried to wrap
if
my head
that-
around it, and
If that's the case,
I'm
do
not
we want
getting
to
it.
have our own?
We do. We have our own as
We
well.
do.
We do?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do our
Well,
books
we
every
don't-
other year.
We don't do an
Yeah.
audit.
But it's a financial statement, disclosure, whatever they,
Disclosure, yeah.
And who-
it was,
And who
it was as close.
And who
yeah.
prepares that for us?
Herzog,
Herzog Little,
Okay.
But we're required to do a full audit.
town is required to do.
I-
And it is
Would you be able
budgeted
to
now.
look into
It is
that?
Yeah,
budgeted.
I'll look into it.
Okay.
I mean, whether you're required to do it or not, it's, as a general practice, it's, it's public money and.
Which is
we
why
should
we
make
have
sure
been
that-
doing that for so long.
What's that?
Which is why we have been doing it for so long
Have or have not?
with
been?
Herzog and Little. It's a financial,
reconciliation.
yeah, that they do for us every other year.
That's
Yeah.
not an audit.
Not an audit.
That's not an audit.
All right, I'll look into it.
Just, yeah, if we're required to do an audit of our own
I mean,
funds.
As we know, the beautiful thing about the trustees is there are no rules, so there's no requirement per se.
Yay. No rules. Yeah.
You know, but I will find out what the town's doing, because, you know, the other thing, well.
The town's
I don't wanna go to
definitely
Southampton.
required to audit what they provide the trustees for administration. administrative.
Yeah, yeah, and that should be done.
Right, so that, but the rest of our stuff, they shouldn't have to worry about.
The bottom line is, it's, you know,
Yeah.
you don't want to spend a lot of money, of course, on the accounting bills, but, you know, it's hard to justify not periodically voting the books. You know.
I agree. All right, report of the clerk. Two things. We have to order the shirts for the pump-out boat operators. Is somebody
Oh,
doing that?
I knew of a place,
Okay,
East Hampton,
Ocean Graphics.
yeah, downstairs, embroidery or something like that, but, did anybody, I can take care of it.
I mean, someone needs to, you want to design it quickly? I mean, it doesn't have to real big deal.
Uh,
No, they don't have our design. That's Ocean Graphics.
Yeah.
Different.
Ocean Graphics has it?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it would make sense to just
No, they
go
don't
there.
talk.
They don't.
It's two different owners now. But I can, you know,
A seal on the chest?
All right, Brian, we'll talk in the
Over a
office about
toilet?
it.
Yeah.
all right,
Okay? That work?
sure.
Great.
I'll bring that seal down.
All right, and the,
Show 'em
Just
what we
doing
want.
shirts, or are we doing any jackets or anything like that? You know, like windbreakers?
He's got them. He's got windbreakers, but
They
we'll.
need
we'll
like
talk.
three-season jackets,
well,
shirts.
Brian and I will look at this, we'll come back with a proposal to you guys. All
Okay,
right,
what else we got?
That's fine.
by the next meeting.
Sure.
All right. All right. The other thing I have is, we got a letter from a Mark Tranchini. He's requesting an internship. Let's see, he's a resident of Montauk. He's a sophomore student studying marine affairs with a focus in coastal conservation. I'm aware that your office doesn't usually hire interns. However, I feel I can be a great asset to the office, and can also learn a lot about the issues we have in our towns, as well as my field of study by working with your team. Could be paid or unpaid. He would like to start first week of June, ending the first week of September. I'm just not sure how we would utilize someone on a full-time basis.
You wouldn't be able to vote.
No.
More administrative.
Yeah, he wants to
Clerical.
do,
We do have a couple of research projects that are of interest. I mean, facilitating the dredging plan, there's an interest in getting some statistics together on the openings of the gut. There are
Yeah, I'm
computer,
not sure that that's gonna take up
the
a
whole
couple
summer.
months, but you know what?
you know, there are things
mean-
out there that I'd love to see us pursuing that are very time-consuming and very clerical and very detailed, that, you know, could be a
Why don't you
potential.
put a little thought into what you might want to do with Kevin and have him come in for an interview or something?
See whether our projects coordinate or will be helpful toward his requirements, what he's
Right,
studying.
Right,
So-
is it a match?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'd be happy to interview. I think someone else should be a part of it. Any volunteers?
I'm sorry, is he a local guy?
Montauk,
I'll volunteer.
you'll volunteer?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
him?
I'll help put
Need
together a
leadership,
couple,
Francis, I
uh,
understand
Okay.
you don't wanna be
items
the
that might be of
yellow
interest.
lad.
No, it's not
It's just
that
like-
at all.
it's just like
It's
Boy
good to have
Scouts all
other
over again.
other ideas on how we would utilize his.
Right. And did he
Sounds
give us
good.
any indication of what he would
And,
expect to
and
be
we would
paid?
we also need to discuss whether we want to do a paid internship or not. I know Lori got us, didn't you get a pay scale for interns?
What?
Did I see you got you requested a pay scale or some, I saw something
No, I didn't.
via email.
You know, one
I'll
thing,
look for it.
the one thing I've been meaning to do and check with Lori and everything is, I don't know what the status is of our files that we have on our different properties. You know, we know that one of the issues with the trustees is always, what do we own and what's the status of our records on to support, you know, the different properties that we own or claim to own. And, you know, maybe, you know, again, I don't know what the status of our files is. I don't know whether an internist could be used to organize those and,
They're
you know,
organized very
are they
well.
organized?
Actually, they are.
We never refer to them. I notice whenever we're doing stuff, we never ever refer to, you know, any of our backup records, whether we have deeds or other extraneous files. You know,
Just just usually bring the file for the applicant.
I mean, I was noticing the other day, I was looking at the tax map, there's land on the south side of Cranberry Hill Road, east of Napping Bennett, which supposedly is owned by the trustees, according to the tax map. I never knew that. You probably never do that.
Is it in the inventory? You did an inventory
I
in
know, but it's not in my
84.
inventory, so I do
Oh,
not
and you
know
did,
about it.
you did an update on that last
Yeah,
year,
we
right?
have that in the
Didn't
Yeah.
include this parcel.
Okay, interesting.
Do we own it? I don't know, but the tax map says we do, so we're halfway there.
Okay, so let's put our
I
heads
don't know, just
together
throw
and
that
put
out there.
together some
I don't know
projects
really
that
what
we're
the condition
interested
of
in
our-
getting done. Maybe
our
we can use
records
this guy. All right. So I'll give him a call and I'll arrange for the Conic Estuary Program notices. No, I still haven't figured out how to do these at these meetings.
Why don't you make a reference to their website?
Yeah, across the bow, a view from the baykeeper. I mean,
all of these things.
this, yeah, I mean, there aren't even dates on these things, so really the best thing for anybody who's interested is to go to their website, peconicbaykeeper.org. Okay. Notice from the Suffolk County Department of Public Works, RE the aerial mosquito larval spraying.
Yeah, I looked at that. We're not on the list for this next
Let's go
spring.
around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's about it. Anybody have anything they wanna?
I did forget to mention one thing. We have our new GIS map of Georgia Pond and the Phragmites projects. It needs a couple of updates, and it should include all agents' projects. In the past, I know Bruce did one for us. This one should be a little more comprehensive. It does need a couple of updates, so I'd like to make those updates and share it with everyone.
All right.
But we've got something in the works.
There's one other
Would
thing.
you like to say anything?
Rick, are you gonna bring up about Dr. Gobler, an agreement that she's
Oh, yes.
drawn up?
Yes, thank you, Lori. Dr. Goldberg did reach out to us about 2017 and gave us a preliminary proposal for this year's water quality testing. It seems to be a little more comprehensive, more sites, more buoys, et cetera.
More
But it's also
expensive?
a little more
Yes.
expensive. So I wanted to look at that against last year, and then perhaps at the next meeting, we can discuss it in more detail. So I'll send that around to everyone for their review.
And
Yeah, we
the-
should,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
There's more
yeah,
money.
no, there's more money. And I'm hoping that Dr. Gobler's bill and others associated to what we're trying to do here can be paid for in part with the 20% of the CPF for water quality. I know, Bill, you're in attendance at those meetings, and I know that
it's
you've
been
got a
brought up
list.
a couple of times.
All right, good.
Okay, but
Because we don't have deep pockets, that's for sure.
It's important work, and it is also
Yeah,
it's
there's no
expensive
question
work.
about it.
Yeah, what is our arrangement does the village and the Friends pay a portion of that?
Historically, I do not believe
I
so.
don't think so.
Okay.
We have footed the entire bill historically.
All right.
we started the,
That way we have some ownership interest in the data.
Well, no.
That's been a very valuable
it's
project.
growing though. It started out as,
Francis.
can you give me the pen back? We want to trade them.
Okay,
I like that other pen. It's very
Anybody-
nice.
Good meeting.
next time you stop by my office, I'll give you one. We have a motion?
Motion to close?
Second.
All
Aye.
in favor? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.